Definitely welcome you guys to the Knot Nation channel here. It's an honor to have some legendary dreadlocks on the show. And I basically wanted to talk to you guys about dreadlock culture.
Sweet. I love that.
And if you guys want to go
I could
ahead
do
and
that all day.
you could be here all day. I know. Well, well, Krista here is a loctician out of Philadelphia, United States. But if you want to go ahead and give us an introduction, what's your name? Where are you from? What do you do?
I am Krista Wrightsey. I am a loctician, or what I like to call a dreadlock artist. Um, I work at Rebel Salon in Philadelphia, and I have been locking my own hair for 16 years now. I was not doing hair at all when I locked it up. What happens with my hair when I actually started going through the freeform process is what brought me to my career, because I wanted to figure out what was actually happening to it, because it was doing crazy stuff that I didn't expect to happen at all, and I didn't even know that dreadlocks could do. And that's really what brought me to becoming a dreadlock geek and trying to figure out like what's actually going on in here. And yeah, I've been doing locks for 10 years now. I think I've worked on close to 1,000 different dreadheads over the last 10 years. And the only reason I can guesstimate that is I know for a fact in the last 4.5 years that our salon has been open, we worked on over 730 different people.
Wow.
So I don't have the numbers from the 6 years prior to that. It was definitely not as busy as it is now. We have definitely built a reputation up at our salon. And I'm really super proud of that, because it's not just a reputation of like, hey, it's a great salon. It's like really a place where people feel safe and comfortable. That's one reason why Patrick decided to actually come in. And that's probably one of the most important things that I'm really proud of. Dreadlocks are like my life right now. It took me 30 some years to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. I always felt like there was something else out there. I was a preschool teacher when I locked up my hair, which is a fulfilling career, but wasn't my dream. And yeah, this is like my purpose. And my clients, you took a look at my Instagram. My clients are like the most amazing, incredible people that I've had the wonderful opportunity to meet, and it's an honor to work on their hair. I can honestly tell you that like in the last 10 years, I have never, not one day, said that I don't want to go to work today. Not one day.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
there's definitely some value that you're adding, and you are attaining, like, I guess, some sort of reward. Like, what's the reward that you get from being so dedicated or dedicated to the culture?
Um, it's fun. Like it's in so many different ways. Like I've it's fun in the aspect of like I get to meet really cool people every single day and work with really cool people. You're smiling. He's definitely one of them. It's I look at myself in a sense as a healer. Um, I am allowed to touch people. There's very few jobs in this world where you're physically allowed to touch people, right?
Hmm.
And I believe in physical energy transference. So I'm allowed to touch somebody's crown.
Hmm.
And if you're a spiritual person and you understand our chakras, like our crown is what connects us to the universe. And there's a lot of indigenous cultures. In fact, I just posted a Native American on Instagram yesterday that was talking about what his teachings were in his tribe as far as who was allowed to braid his hair.
Hmm.
And, he was saying, I really only allow people that either my family or people that I really trust to braid and touch my hair. And to me, that is just like a really incredible connection.
Hmm.
People come in and they allow me to do this. It's not just a haircut. It's not just hair color. For some, I'm not going to say that there aren't people that just are doing some of this for the aesthetic, or at least initially start their journeys for the aesthetic of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is so much more. And, the fact that people allow me into their energy space and we connect that way, it's incredible what happens when my hands physically touch someone's head. It's incredible the stories that come out. It's incredible the things that people feel so comfortable enough to share with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true for a lot of hairdressers in general. We joke because it's like, are we hairdressers or are we psychologists? But people really share so much of themselves, and it I guess it surprised me because, like, at first when I started learning how to do this, like, I was just in it to, like, whoa, this is cool. Like, I'm learning this and I'm trying that. And, it was more experimentation. And there's a huge aspect of that part of my career that I love, what I've learned over time, because what I learned to do in the beginning
Mm-hmm.
slowly evolved because I got to see over a few years what those actions did to my client's hair, and adjusted things and learned more things. But yeah, I think what my clients got from it was
Mm-hmm.
a total surprise to me, and I like when you read the reviews for our salons, most people they'll talk about their hair, but most people talk about how they feel
Mm-hmm.
and how much like family we are,
Mm-hmm.
and just the energy of our space and ourselves. And to me, that's like the most amazing thing, that I get paid to to do this type of work and to help people. And sometimes it's just a matter of helping them like aesthetically look better, but sometimes it's also a matter of helping them do something that they've been doing, like Patrick, for years by themselves. They've never had somebody that they could trust enough to help them with something.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people that have neglected their hair from depression and thought things were hopeless, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they were going to have to cut their hair off or shave their hair off. um, I don't know. I've helped people with confidence, and I look at it as helping or assisting. I don't look at anybody's journey, even if I start their locks, as mine. And I think that's a really cool aspect of it too. Like, my one client said to me, she was celebrating like 5 or 6 years of locking her hair, and I had started her locks, and they were like little like spikes straight off her head.
Awesome.
And now they're just lush and beautiful and thick. And she was like, I don't know, is Krista my dreadlock mama? And I was like, I kind of look at it as like, I'm your dreadlock doula. Like, my clients have this vision in their mind. They grow their own hair, and they come to me to help them start something for them, and I guide them through it. And then what they do when they go home is really where all the magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
Dreadlock maintenance and, extensions and all that stuff. Like, that's just me just creating something, but I'm creating what they've wanted in their life. And really what happens and how our locks form has 100% to do with what someone is doing at home with their locks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, Patrick, like, I don't know if you could hear some of the conversation in the video that you initially watched, but he tried all different things to start his locks until they finally started to take shape. And I truly believe that it doesn't matter how you start your locks, whether you stop brushing your hair, you stop washing your hair, you back comb it only, you do twist and rip, you start braids and let it mat up, twists. It's all the same. Like, we're all getting to the same point. Some of those ways take longer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one reason why I was super stoked to talk to you today, is because the freeformers, I have so much respect for you guys, because that freeforming and neglect, it is by far the longest, slowest process of locking your hair.
Mm-hmm.
But it also, to me, from what I've experienced with my freeform clients, is the most satisfying and
Mm-hmm.
gratifying.
Mm-hmm.
It's really wild, you know. So yeah, I don't know. I've been chatting a lot. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, this is what we're here to. This is what we're here for. It's a podcast. I'm definitely open to just hearing and learning as much knowledge that you have to bless us with. So I mean, taking it back to just like your locks and Patrick's locks. Tell us about how you started your dreadlocks, and then
Me?
yeah.
Okay. So I actually did have my locks started by a professional dreadlock traveling salon.
Okay.
Um, they're called Hair Police. They still exist in Minneapolis. The owner actually passed away 2 weeks after I got my locks
Oh
started,
wow.
but they would travel from New York, Los Angeles, I think someplace in Florida, and maybe someplace in Texas, like every 3 to 4 months, and they would set up appointments.
Mm-hmm.
So I they subletted an apartment in New York City, and I went up there, and it was like this tiny apartment with like 8 different hairdressers doing all sorts of crazy extensions and locks. If you're familiar with George Clinton and P Funk, the Parliament Funkadelic. They're an old funk
Oh,
band. Oh, you got to look up George Clinton.
for
His
sure.
hair was done by Hair Police. He had all colorful locks and braids and everything in his hair. Really great music. You should really look him up.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, but they started my locks with a dread perm. Are you
Okay.
familiar with that?
No, why don't you enlighten us there?
Okay, so with everybody trying to figure out back in the day how to lock their hair,
Mm-hmm.
because people and crocheting was not in existence. In the 80s, the owner of Hair Police, her name was Sonia. She tried a couple different things, and she came up with what's called the dread perm.
Okay.
So they backcombed my hair, and then they put it on plastic perm rods,
Mm-hmm.
like to make a curly hair perm, and chemically permed my hair.
Oh.
And a lot of people were like, why would you do that? And I was like, well, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I always wanted curly hair. I wanted like an afro, to be honest with you. And my mom permed my hair my whole life. So the chemical perm, like back then, to me was nothing. I was like, okay. And how I envisioned it, not knowing anything about dreadlocks, was that, oh, well, they're going to backcomb my hair and they're going to perm it, and it's going to like mold it, like keep it this way. Because,
Mm-hmm.
when you do curly hair perms, you wrap the hair up, you perm it, and then it
Right.
stays curly. Ultimately, what they did that I learned years later is they damaged my hair, because damaged, drier hair will lock up faster than silky, healthier hair.
Mm-hmm.
Bleached hair locks up like that, you know. Um, so yeah, I started with a dread perm, and there was no crocheting involved. They banded my roots with a tiny string. So the string that you saw me use in the video, that's how my
Right.
maintenance used to be done. And eventually I stopped going to the girl who was maintaining my hair because A, she was a little bit crazy, but B, because she wasn't really helping me fix what was going on. And I didn't know what to do. And all the dreadlock forums, or the we called them message boards back then. All the dreadlock message boards, everybody was just like, they're dreads, they'll be fine, don't worry about it. So I was like, all right, like, what do I need this girl for? Why am I paying her all this money, and my hair's crazy anyway? So,
Mm-hmm.
so I threw my favorite headband on, and I ultimately let my dreads freeform. And they were wild. Like, I had the dreadlocks that were zigzagged and
Mm-hmm.
looped and bumped, and my ends shrunk up. Like, I lost like probably like that much length into like the very ends. They were like,
Mm-hmm.
I used to call them my dookie balls. They were like little
Yeah,
nuggets.
yeah.
They were cool. They were cool. That was really hard to cut trim off.
Wow.
But it was like it was wild, and I did love it, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't what I envisioned. I saw different locks that were smoother, and I was definitely like into like the club scene, and so like the synthetic dreads are so perfect, and
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, why is my hair doing this? Like, I've never seen dreadlocks look like this, and back then on the internet, we didn't have tutorials. The message boards had no pictures,
Mm-hmm.
um,
I
and
remember.
I had heard about crocheting, but wasn't really understanding. I remember reading like stuff about it,
Mm-hmm.
and if I'm remembering correctly, because it's hard to go back that far in my brain, it was more people in Thailand that were doing crocheting.
Okay.
And around that time, I had met this girl I skated roller derby with, and
Cool.
she had offered to help me with my hair. She was in beauty school, and the only thing I knew to do was the strings and stuff. But ultimately, she learned how to do dreadlocks from Hair Police because she was interested in it after meeting me.
Mm-hmm.
I became her first client. She was not crocheting. Hair Police never, I don't even think they crochet now. But she wanted to start her dreads. And I was like, hey, that sounds kind of hard to do yourself. Like, do you want some help? And she was like, yeah, maybe we could try the crocheting. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's how I learned how to crochet. And her locks I did, it took me 10 hours. And I can tell you, like, now to do her same head again, like the way she did it, because she sectioned it all out for me
Mm-hmm.
before I even got there, it would take me about 3 hours to do at this point.
And
Um,
that's just from like evolving with your skill set, or
yeah,
because the technique hasn't changed really, right?
there's lots of techniques.
Yeah, I
There's a
mean,
whole lot of techniques for crocheting, and that's one thing that I've really been trying to express more so in the dreadlock artist community. I don't know if you're aware, but I started the Dreadlock Artist Collective this past year,
okay,
with
I'll look into it.
three good friends of mine that are also dreadlock artists. And when I say collective, what I mean by that is that anybody that does dreadlocks, anybody that makes dreadlock accessories or healthy products for our hair, like, I'm trying to create a community. I'm not trying, I am. We have created a community of people that share this passion, because personally, as a professional, I am licensed. I'm a full cosmetologist in the state of New Jersey, MPA.
Okay.
Um, I just choose to work on dreadlocks only. And I would really love to see, I would love to see a lot of things. I would love to see dreadlock artists respected as much as barbers, as hairstylists, nail techs. And I would just really like to see dreadlocks respected and honored just like any other hairstyle. And it hasn't been
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, especially in the professional industry, which is wild. So, like, that's part of my career goal, is to really change the perspective on how the rest of society views locks, because there's a lot of stereotypes, horrible stereotypes, ridiculous stereotypes, that just aren't true.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing it. I've seen a significant change in the last 5-6 years,
Mm-hmm.
significant. And I can
Mm-hmm.
even talk to you. You've locked your hair before, yes? Like, this isn't your
Yeah,
first set?
this is my second full set,
Okay.
and the first time around, well, technically it's about my third set. My first set lasted maybe about 2 weeks before I took him out, and then the set that stuck with me, I found out about interlocking,
Okay.
which is the root flipping
Mhm.
technique, obviously, and back when I was looking for the information on it, this was about 2008. Online, I couldn't find information on it. Like I went to the message boards and I seen people talking about it, but with no pictures and no videos, it was impossible to really understand what was going on. So I get where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of experimenting and just trial and error for me to understand it because I wasn't paying for locticians to do it. I was trying to really figure it out myself. And yeah, interlocking was the method that I found worked best because it was the most instant for me at the time. Um, and then 5 years, 6 years later, I ended up having a kind of a build-up issue in the interlocks. So I ended up cutting them one morning after a really heavy edible binge the night before. I woke up like 3 a.m. and just said, "What is going on with my hair right now? I'm just gonna chop it off." And I started fresh. And it was probably about 6 months after cutting my hair, I decided that I'm not into the barber culture. Like I wasn't into going to the salon and waiting in line and getting into the chair finally to have somebody new cutting my hair that didn't know what they were doing. And then the guy ended up cutting me and I was bleeding in the chair.
Oh
And at
no.
that point, I just said, you know what, forget it. I'm just growing dreadlocks back, and I'm gonna do it the way I've always wanted to do it, was just like by letting them go freely and seeing what happens. So
What year was that? How long ago was that?
this was in 2015
Okay.
that happened.
This is this set now that you have, yes?
Yeah, and this set now is about going into my 6th year, and yeah, it's been a crazy journey because of the rate my hair grows like this. I thought my hair was growing fast interlocking because I thought that the tension on my scalp was pulling my hair out to grow quicker, but my hair is actually growing way faster by just leaving it.
Yeah, you'll lose length with interlocking, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
awesome.
So when I saw your post, I've been following you on Instagram for a little bit now, and I saw your post with Patrick and his hair at 30 years. I just thought like, you know, just the amount of dedication to get to 30 years, first of all, is something that I feel is so hard to achieve because I couldn't personally see myself growing my hair for that long because of the length and the weight of it. But I love seeing people that can achieve it or that have achieved it, and it just reminded me so much of like of a militant. Like you look like a rebel. Like you look like you're ready to fight a war with that length. And honestly, it looks like Damian Marley, the length and the way that he's wearing his hair. So I really wanted to just react to it and get it out to the world. And which brings me to now meeting both you guys, which is an amazing opportunity. And I wanted to ask you now, Patrick, what started you and your dreadlock journey, and why did you decide to do it in this route 30 years ago?
My everything began for me when I was very young. A lot of my friends were older than I was, and everybody in my neighborhood surfed, skateboarded,
Mm-hmm.
and that was like all I knew. Like if you played baseball or basketball, that was kind of nobody really did that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that led me to like hardcore music and things like that, which led me to the shows.
Yep.
And then when I would go to these shows, in between these heavy bands, they would always play like reggae music. And starting to go to New York City very young, like I would see these really big, you know, Rasta guys with what they now call the beaver tail, which back then was called a plate. And it would just blow me away. And it was kind of then all this coming together, like the music, the punk rock thing, like, you know, crazy hair things, stuff like that. And then like I would meet these really big, like kind of Rasta DJs between these bands, and we would talk, you know, like about dreadlocks and reggae music and just kind of living a natural life. And that's when I got to like all the, like I learned about like the Ital and eating, and, you know, it just kind of, everything just started feeding on its own. And it just became the way I was. Like by the time I was 15, like I was experimenting with all different kind of dreadlock things. And it's just, there's very few people in my life that have known me without them. Like, I mean, I really can't think maybe one or two people where it's like I had them in the beginning and kind of cut them and then grew them back. And then, you know, I started other things like the beeswax thing. Then I went to certain salons in New York City. And back then it was like, even people would just think you were nuts, and they would just take your hair and twist it and beeswax it and be like, you know, here you go.
Yeah.
And it was coming to me. It's like, you know, when I let my hair just do what it wanted, that kind of worked better. And then I don't know how old I was, probably 18, I got the dread perm. And that was just because like I had these friends that were like Rasta guys, and they're like, you know, you're a white guy and our friend does this and you should try it. And I really wasn't about that, because at the time things were going pretty good with me, like the natural thing. But I was like, you know, these guys kind of know what they're saying, and I'll get it. And I did it, and it worked. It didn't work. I don't know. It really just, it kind of made me like big curls. But that was when I kind of realized like, yeah, all right, enough with this. Like, I'm just going to kind of let things do what they do.
Right.
And that just became, you know, I would just kind of twist them and pull them apart. And, you know, and it's so funny to me now too, because like me growing up, like the bigger the dreadlocks were, that was like more respect. That was like, you know, when you saw a guy with the big beaver tail, that was like, I want that. Whereas now that's kind of frowned upon. Like, you know, people think that's dirty and gross and whatever, but that was like the guy with the beaver tail to his knees was like respect. That was like, wow, man, that's what I want. I just want one big, nasty, dirty dreadlock. And that's what I like. I like that aspect of it. Like, you think it's dirty, that's cool. That's your prerogative. But it's me. It's always been me. Like, when I was very young, I guess I found who I was going to be. Like, I still skate, I still surf, snowboard. These are the three things I do. They're my religion. It's all I do.
Nice.
And dreadlocks have kind of always come along with that. It's kind of always been in those societies that there was always other people that had them, you know, and it's just the way it's always been. They'll get real long, you know, I'll kind of cut them. They'll get really long again, like they were the last time. And then kind of doing things online, I found Krissa, and when we first started talking, I said to her, I was like, you know, man, I'm thinking of cutting them. And one of the very first things she ever said to me, she's like, I think of it like shedding. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, that hit me. Like, because for the longest time, I was like, I'm not cutting this. I'm not doing it. It's like my struggles of my life. And, you know, like I have so much into this and they're really important to me. And I couldn't do it. And then it was probably like 2 years. I just kept thinking of her saying that to me, like, you know, it's like shedding. And sometimes, you know, you got to
shed some energy.
Yeah, shed some energy, start new.
Shed some weight.
And then this year, like, it's 2020, it's an easy time to remember when I cut them for me. So it's like, you know, 2030, 40, you know, it's kind of easy. The world is kind of falling apart. I'm like, now's a good time to rebirth. Like, you know, there's like a lot of things going on. I'm getting closer to retirement at my work, and that's kind of like my next struggle is now the retirement, and that's kind of like what this is going to represent, like the final hard push of my life.
What kind of work are you into?
I deliver mail. I'm a letter carrier.
A letter carrier, and they've never given you any sort of grief having dreadlocks with their company?
The dreadlocks have kind of it's a funny thing because dreadlocks have kind of also dictated my life. Like, you know, like I went to college, I went to art school, and then too, like the friends I had in college were like dreadlock guys and like people that skated and things. And like, I had two friends from Japan that barely spoke English, but they had dreadlocks that were like still to this day better than almost anyone's I've ever seen. I don't know what they did. I don't know if they got dread perms or if it was a wig. I don't know, but it was like I met these two guys and it was like, oh my God. And they were big punk rock guys and we could barely talk to each other, but we had this kind of dreadlock thing in common and we became really good friends. And like those two guys would go to Jamaica to any like Bob Marley festival and they barely spoke English and they would come back and tell me like, I'm like, you know, how did it go? Like, were people mean to you? Were they nice to you? And they're like, you know, people let us come and stay in their home. And, you know, it was like the whole dreadlock thing, like, you know, and that's how I became with them.
It's a bond.
Yeah. And we kind of went on this journey together. And that's kind of then how like Krissa and I kind of connected was like, I saw what she was doing. She's on my level. It's earthy. It's, you know, she's not really in this to make a lot of money. She loves what she's doing. Her salon isn't super cuts.
Yeah, we call our salon an anti-salon.
Yeah, like it's not, you know, like I'm not going to go down to a place like that and be like, yeah, man, I want dreadlocks, nor do I think anybody really should. But I mean, like to me, it started kind of as a fashion punk rock thing. And then as I got more into the lifestyle, like it's, you know, it led me to becoming vegan. It led me to just like, I'm totally straight edge as well, because that was like a big thing when I was young. Like I don't smoke, I don't drink.
Okay.
I've never smoked a cigarette. I've never been drunk. And that was part of this too, was like, you know, these Rasta guys were like, you know, live natural, like let your hair be natural, eat natural foods, stay away from lots of sugar, stay away. Alcohol is like the devil. You don't need it. You don't. And I had that, and then the punk rock thing of the straight edge thing, like these two perfect storm kind of meeting together. And it was like, you know, these two cultures that I really liked and wanted to be a part of. And that led me then to, you know, getting into the Rasta religion, PMA effect and all that. And that was like another thing from the hardcore world, was like this whole Bad Brains thing coming, and like HR. Like when I heard of that band, that was like a light went off in my head. I'm like, this is what I am. This is everything to me. Like HR, Dr. No. These guys spoke to me in a way that was like when you find a religion, it was like their dreadlocks.
Somebody who understood you.
Yeah, and like the music was hardcore and reggae together. And it was like, you know, these really fast songs, ripping and tearing, hardest music you've ever heard. HR literally doing backflips on stage, to then like this really cool reggae, like, okay, we're going to bring things down. Like, and that underlying thing of like, you know, these guys became Rastafarians. They really weren't born into it, but yet they're also into this hardcore punk scene, and the things kind of go together. And, you know, and like HR was like what I wanted to be. Like I wanted to have the dreadlocks like him. I wanted the big plates and like the big, what they call Congos now, I think, but like the big fat plate. Like I just want messy, dirty. Like when I went to Krissa, I'm like, give me that. I don't want clean cut. I want the Rasta look. That's what I am. That's what I relate to.
He literally said, because I said, what do you envision? Like when your locks are, because he actually envisioned his locks shorter. His wife and I both convinced him to like come to this level.
Okay.
And he's like, I just wanted to look like I am a wild, crazy man. And that's one reason we attached the ends to them. Remember, like I had cut them off and then I tied them with a string.
Right.
It wasn't to, at first I thought he wanted to fill in up at the top, because our crowns sometimes can look, and you commented on it in the video where I had said, you know, he wanted me to look at his scalp, and that's something he and I had been talking about for a while, because honestly, like the biggest issues that I see with freeformers is sectioning, and where people have allowed their locks to get so dense and heavy that their sectioning is like really wonky, and it'll pull and cause permanent hair loss, tension alopecia. You know, so that's my biggest concern with freeformers. I don't care how wild you want them to be, like if you lumpy, bumpy, whatever it is, like I respect it all, but I am going to be concerned if you're going to go bald, and I want you to understand. I want my clients to understand that. So like, you know, at first I looked at his scalp and he wasn't bald. And I love that you did the commentary explaining, you paused it and you were like, see the scalp there? No, it's from the weight of the lock pulling down. So it's just exposing more scalp, because I would have loved to explain that to people. But again, I was just letting people in on our appointment. It wasn't really, it was for the people watching just to be a part of it, you know? But like, yeah, he wasn't balding. And, you know, so I wasn't sure at first that when he told me he wanted to reattach some of the ends, I thought it was to kind of fill in up at the top. And then he was like, no, I kind of want them hidden underneath here, you know? So they are, have they stayed in?
Yes.
Okay. So they are attached. Like here's one.
Yeah, let's see how these are looking.
So this is just basically tied on with a string. I know you had asked if I had used a needle. I don't use needles. It's just a slip knot. And this is the same string that I used to use for my maintenance back in the day. This is, you also asked what kind of string it is. It's a nylon it's a nylon thread. I purchased string at Dolly Locks' website. They have it in like every color, but I don't really, I can talk to you about string if you want to. I don't really recommend it for much except for attaching extensions.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just tied on here, and there's no real way, like I didn't want to crochet this into his natural lock. I didn't want to put that type of like tension, and he really wasn't, he only asked me to crochet one root in the back of his head because it had like a gap in it, like it wasn't, it was splitting, and he wants bigger, so that's why I crocheted that one root for him. And so yeah, they're just attached here. I know you asked if they're gonna mat together. I'm curious to find that out, and normally I would say no, but the fact that his locks are so soft and pliable, so what happens to hair if some people don't even really think about what's actually happening in a lock, but to create knots, hair needs to rub against each other, right? Friction. And when that happens enough in a dreadlock body, so if somebody's constantly pommeling, they're constantly getting those hairs inside that lock to rub against each other, they tighten up really, really, really hard sometimes. Or you'll get that shrinkage and you get the hardened ends, those heavy, dense dread bodies, which is what I was half expecting, what I was completely expecting with Patrick's locks. And, I was really surprised at how spongy they are. So these hairs here on his natural lock and his extension that I had cut off and reattached are still soft and can move around. So this is also on the back of his head where he's going to sleep on it. Yeah. He's going to pull his hair back, so it's going to rub. So there is a chance that some of those hairs will start to attach and permanently fuse together. I don't know. It's going to be an experiment to see. And it'll be really cool. And I think too, one of the things that I learned through this appointment is if you go back and look at his first picture, like the before pictures when his hair was really long, right? And I think I mentioned it during his appointment. You can see a timeline in somebody's dreadlocks, especially with freeforming. You could see where locks congoed together and fused. I could see can I tell them what you had in your hair?
Yeah.
He had zip ties in a couple spots. That was the first for me. I was like, whoa. He also had rings, like his wife's rings were in his hair and things like that. So like where things were put in there, like they fused in areas, some of them fused naturally. But when you look at that before picture, the ends were so much thinner, right? There were more locks. And now with this, how we cut it, fast forward 10 years from now. Yeah. What are the ends of his locks going to look like? They're going to be completely different. They're going to be bigger. They're going to be wider. And I think what's cool, because I don't really expect him to come back. I mean, he can. I don't really expect him to come back to me to have this, like the string snipped out and me reattach it back up at the root. This is going to grow with the end of his lock. And when it gets down to the bottom, he is going to have some more ends down there, like thinner pieces, and it's just going to change the aesthetic of it a little bit, just a little. I think, what do we tie in, 2 or 3?
2. Well, we had the gray one.
Oh yeah.
Which Krista made for me, but I took that out because I've kind of been swimming in the ocean all week, and it was just kind of not really blending with the other one, and it kind of slid down. So that one is out. But the other one
was to show us the synthetic gray one that was.
Oh, no, it's not there anymore.
I wasn't expecting that at all. I think he just wanted to give me something that I've never done before.
You don't go to like the greatest dreadlock person on earth. It's like you call Picasso to paint your house white. Like, you don't do that. Like if I'm going to go to her, it's going to be, okay, do things you haven't done. And I like big, nasty,
that whole appointment
fat
was something that I've never done before.
Right. So. Like make me a beaver tail. Let's see if you can do it. Yeah. No one else is going to come walking in this door asking for that. Like, but that's what I like. And I'm a little different. I mean, and there's the whole thing too that I struggled with for 2 years, that like going to a loctician, like, this person makes money on doing dreadlocks. Is that right? Is it wrong? But as we got to know each other, it's like, yeah, it's right, because she's listening to me. She's not telling me to come down there and just give her a bunch of money and, sayonara, see out the door, which back in 1988, I had been to that. I have seen that. Like, people just, I can dreadlock your hair, and they put a braid in it. And it's like, okay, that's going to be $300. And it's like, that's not really what I'm about. And that's kind of really like anti-dreadlock. And, I'm not really about those things. And Krista, though, was like me. She's like, it's shedding. It's natural. It's like anything I asked her, she would always write back to me. It wasn't ignoring me. It wasn't like, just come down here and we'll do it. It was like, no. And she's like, I'm into making that big plate. I'm into you coming down here and like I was like, I really only want one tightened, and that was just kind of because of the way it was growing. Because I'm not really about the crochet thing. I'm much.
Yeah, like
I'm not into that.
when I post my client pictures of the before and after, like, and I think it was definitely your comment too. Patrick will, if he comments, it's almost always, I like the before better.
Yeah.
And my response is always, of course you do. And you commented that on his post, and I was like, yes, like, yes, because. And that's something I really try to show on my page. Yes, my page will showcase my work, but my page on Instagram is really to show the diversity of every single journey. Cool. And not just in pictures, but like I put so much energy into my posts of telling somebody's story, of explaining what caused them to start locking their hair, what they were experiencing, what they were feeling, like, because to me, every single person that has chosen this lifestyle, has chosen this journey, is so different from the next, like beyond everybody. And I want to show that because there are some people out there that are just in it for, I don't think you can do dreadlocks like just for money. I mean, maybe there's some people that are doing it, but what I consider what we do with crocheting is what I call modern dreadlocking techniques, right? Okay. And we're in the age of technology and Instagram models, and now we have dreadlock models, and you know, there's this image that has been slowly growing to be of like these perfect locks, and you know, and I look at it more so in the female aspect of things too, and they are beautiful, and there's some beautiful dreadlocked women, and I'm not putting anybody down for doing their thing and promoting themselves and stuff, but you know, for me personally, I'm still trying to just show the reality of things. You know, I don't doctor my pictures. I don't have a professional camera. I'm not out doing photo shoots and things like that. It's like I take my clients down to our basement where I have a ring light against a white wall, take some pictures, take some video, and then I get to work on their hair, and then I can explain that to people online. And I think that's where my following has really come from, in the sense that like I really believe in educating everybody about locks and everything that I've learned. And I think I mentioned this to you last night when I messaged you, is that, you know, you had said like you appreciated that I filmed that appointment and that I showed my techniques, and that's a part of why I started the Dreadlock Artist Collective too, because it is an education program. Because for many years, you know, when I first started, it was a big secret. There still aren't a ton of us that do this, but there's a lot more now. Yeah. And a lot of people hoarded that. They wanted to keep in a monopoly. My first boss was that way. Like I wasn't even allowed to be friends with other dreadlock artists online. So that was the first thing I did when I left that salon and I started our own. I was like, you know, like there were a couple people in Philadelphia that I was like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm sorry, I really haven't been an asshole the last like 6 years. Like, I just wasn't allowed to talk to you. And like, I don't know, it's what I've learned from other people now, and it's just been in the last like year and a half that I've been meeting other dreadlock artists that do what I do, and to be able to see all our techniques and learn from each other. And like there's no right, in my opinion, there's no right or wrong way that people are doing things, you know. Do some techniques work better for certain textures hair? Yes, absolutely. Or maybe I shouldn't say better, faster, or in a different way because of the curl pattern in the hair, because of how straight it is, sure. But I don't know, I feel like I know the more information I share, the healthier people's scalps are, the more people are getting the results that they want out of their locks, the less confusion there is, the less stereotyping. Like, to me, when our clients walk out of the salon, that's another dreadhead that's empowered with the knowledge that I share with them when they're in my chair. And then they go out into the world, and all the people that they meet, you know, oh, I like your hair. Oh, do you wash your hair? Oh, isn't that dirty? And now they have the knowledge to share with that person. And that's how we change the stigmas, and that's how we evolve. You know, we learn. That's what life's about, learning, right? You know, that's how we grow as humans, and within our soul and within our lives. And I don't know, I just really feel like sharing something like Patrick's appointment, that was a like once in a lifetime, I think, maybe, I don't know,
like, I
type of thing for somebody that
I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Like,
for me, it was a huge
like,
deal.
All right, like, you know, I'm kind of ready for this. It's going to be kind of fun. And, you know, I was on the way to Philadelphia, and Krista texted me like, you know, we're going to do it live. And I'm like,
you like had a panic attack.
Okay. And I'm like, I don't really know who's going to want to watch this, but, you know, I don't know. But yeah, obviously. And then when the YouTube video was like, you know, I guess people are into this, but, you know, I was like, it was really just a haircut, I guess, but like,
I think, and it's not even necessarily the haircut. I think it's that it's so rare. Like, I've had clients that'll come to me to start new locks that did lock their hair in the 80s and the 90s, but they got rid of their locks. Like, to me, it is very rare that somebody has stuck with it for 30 years. Like, I've met a lot of dreadheads, but I haven't. You're first. You're like my Sasquatch, you know. So to me, it was an honor, and I really just wanted to share it, because also, again, trying to share other perspectives. You know, just like there are people that just think there's other dreadheads that probably think that this is dirty and gross, and like, oh, I would never want my hair like that. But it's like, hey, let's open our minds a little bit and try to understand more about what this is about, you know. And yeah, it was beautiful. And his hair, by the way, I know I didn't show it, and I should have. And I know you had said like, oh, I wish you to show the inside of his locks. His hair was clean. His dreadlocks were clean. Not much sebum. He doesn't really have an oily scalp. Definitely some dead skin, but like no gunk.
A question about sebum buildup. How do you tell the difference between like dry scalp and a sebum buildup in the lock, and like how do you measure it?
So you would, okay, that's a great question. Because it's something I've struggled with honestly my whole life.
And what is sebum, essentially?
Okay, so sebum is the natural oils that come from our scalp. Some people produce a lot. Some people produce the average amount. Some people produce little. The people that produce little get dry dandruff. That's dry skin. And the people that produce a little bit more, what happens is it comes out of your scalp and it just sits there. So when you don't have locks and you have brushable hair, that you can actually take a brush and brush through. When we brush our hair, you're actually distributing the oil from your scalp down the shaft of the hair.
Okay.
So, you know, healthy brushing, it's stimulating the scalp. You're moving that sebum from the root of your hair down the entire shaft of the hair. It acts as your hair's natural conditioner. With locks, however, we're not brushing our hair. It just kind of gets trapped on our scalp and under our roots. And what happens is the outside layer of it will kind of dry up, which is why it will look flaky. So a lot of people be like, I have dandruff, I have this dry, itchy scalp. And ultimately they have the exact opposite. They actually have excess oil on their scalp.
Oh.
So then if you're not removing it, and I'll talk to you about that in a second, if you're not removing it from your scalp, what happens is it will start to grow into the root, because it's stuck on those hairs in there. It'll grow into the root, and then your hair locks and it gets trapped inside that dread body. So how we remove it from our dreadlocks is with a deep cleanse, you know, and that's purging the hair in really warm water. A lot of times people use baking soda, different essential oils, but ultimately you really can do it with just really hot water. And it's like a sponge. Anything that gets trapped inside our dreadlocks, they're like sponges. So if you had a sponge and there was oil inside of it, or there was soap inside of it, or some type of product inside of it, what would you do? You would run it under hot water and you would squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze until everything's purged out, right? So the same thing for locks. If you have product that's stuck in there, if you have oil that's stuck in there, dirt, you know, my clients that work construction, they get a lot of dirt in their hair. I had somebody that was train hopping, and he was in a coal train, so he had black soot in his locks.
Oh, wow.
So we soak them and we squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and drain the water, squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, keep doing it until everything's purged out. How you can prevent sebum buildup from even accumulating too much is to manually remove it from your scalp, because the products, the shampoos and things that we should be using for our locks aren't harsh detergents, so they're not going to break down the oil on your scalp. So for the longest time, I would remove it with my fingernails, and I know that sounds gross, but if you're dreadhead and you have oily scalp, you know what I'm talking about. That's how you, number one, this is also how you tell if you have oily dandruff or dry dandruff. If you wash your hair and you like lightly, our scalp is very, very thin and sensitive. We don't want to tear it apart with our fingernails. It can bleed easily. If you lightly scrape on your scalp and then look under your fingernails, and it'll be like this creamy kind of substance. It's creamy. That's sebum. So for the longest time, I would scratch and scratch and scratch, you know, when I washed my hair to break it up and rinse it out. But what I've learned to do is a couple different things. Instead of using my fingernails now, I will use an exfoliating cloth, which is kind of like a rough washcloth. They come in big towel sizes. And I'll go through with my shampoo and I'll gently rub. And I like that because I can use the pads of my fingers instead of my fingernails and break that up. And then I'll rinse it all out, and then I'll go through a second time and wash my scalp again regularly with my fingers. Just because a lot of times you'll break that up and then it'll kind of get trapped in your root area. So that second wash will help you remove it. The other thing you can do is kind of do just like a scalp wash in between your shampoos. And I've actually really learned to love this process. It's also really great for people who have older mature locks, and drying them is like a tedious task. For anybody watching this that is just starting out, like you get to a point where like drying your dreadlocks it's tedious, and it can take days.
3 days.
3 days to dry those.
Which and I surf probably 3 to 5 times a week, if not more. And it's like, there'll be times where my hair is just, you know, I'll surf after work and it's 2 days later and I'm going to work and I can still feel like it's wet. Like, and I work outside, I work in every type of weather. So it's like, and 90% of the time too, like I wear a hat because my dreadlocks are a pretty personal thing. And over all these years, like I really don't like talking to it about like every single person that like, you know, it just gets annoying. And then you get the, can I touch them and those things. And it's like, I started wearing mesh hats because then it would still kind of dry. But, you know, like if I wash my hair in the winter, it's like I really have to like, and for some reason it doesn't seem even like a hairdryer really works. It does, but
takes a while.
It seems like the roots of my hair just stay wet for a long time. So the best thing to do is like get outside, wind, air.
The sun. I feel like the sun dries our hair the fastest.
Yeah, that's
to be honest
kind
with
of
you.
what I've just learned the hard way. But like, and then when it was wet, it's like, I think I weighed it once. It was probably close to a little over 30 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And that's, you know, like on my neck, and that's all the time. Like, you know, because I'm obviously in the ocean, or, you know, even it got to the point like snowboarding, like goggles won't fit on my my head. Like I can't wear my hair down because it's, you know, it's coming out the back of my coat.
His bun would be like this big on the back of his head. Like when I saw a couple of his skate videos, I was like, whoa, it's like a toddler on the back of it, on the back of his head.
Way more than a toddler.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you know,
I've had to give up a few sports because of the weight and the size of my hair. I can't wear like go-karting helmets, or like motorcycle helmets don't fit. Even my skate helmet, I have to take out the padding at the back and use my dreadlocks as that padding.
When I skated roller derby, I had a friend cut with a Dremel saw a circle on the top of my skate helmet, and I wore my hair up through it like a pineapple.
That's awesome.
Everybody told me I should change my skater name to Sideshow Bob.
Sideshow Bob.
Well, like
that's funny.
Later in life now, my friends have all gotten back into riding vert, and I literally couldn't wear a helmet. Like I tried this thing where I'd put it on and I'd put like kind of a headband around the back, and it wouldn't work. And like it just got to the point like, okay, I have this giant bun like in my head. That's my helmet. Like my dreadlocks will protect me. And I mean, luckily they kind of did, but it got to that point too. Like, you know, snowboarding, I can't put the goggles. They don't make goggles big enough to go around my head. I can't wear my hair down because it's almost to my ankles.
Mm-hmm.
You could scalp yourself.
Yeah, and it's like I went to ride a bike one day with my wife, and it's like, you know, I didn't put my hair up, and I didn't have a hat on, and I was like, wow, like it's hitting the chain, and I'm like, ugh, like, you know, and there's times like I'd be surfing, and I'm sitting on the board, and I'm just kind of hanging out, whatever, and it's, you know, I'm by myself, and like something rubs past my leg, and I'm like, ugh, and I'm like, what is that? It's like, oh my God, it's my hair, like, you know, and it's like I didn't like. I knew it was long, but like I didn't think it was going to go around my feet. Like, you know, just like a lot of different things became then, like I didn't really want to cut it. I was pretty used to it, and you know, like my job and everything, everyone kind of knew that was me. I didn't have any problems with that, but it just became like actual life was getting harder, and the weight of it being wet, and then kind of getting in the way of things I really like to do that are still just as important to me. It kind of became like, you know, this was all kind of weighing in, and it was like, well, maybe, you know, maybe it is time to cut it. And like Chris has said, like, I want it now and it comes back. Like, I want them huge. I want the big ends. I don't want the thin ends anymore.
Like whole still probably, like, if I had to guess, if your locks start combining like this, you're going to let it happen, right?
Yeah. If it's natural, that's, you know. I mean, there have been ones I've separated, but it's usually because of uncomfortable reasons. Like I had one kind of in the back here that would have been almost like 5 of them, which would have been one. And I was letting it go, but then it would be like I'd be asleep at night and I'd turn on that side, and I was like, you know, I'm like my neck would go out or something, and I'm like, nah, like this isn't going to work. I got, you know, I got to fix this, like, you know. But I want the big. That's what I like, and like when I was at Chris's salon, I was even saying to her, like, I can be the guy who comes in and tells these people, like, yeah, man, like, let's do this. Like, let's go big and wide. And like, sure. I don't like when it's all sectioned and, you know, you can see the scalp. To me, that was always what you don't want. Like, I want the almost like an afro and then dreadlocks coming out. Like, to me, that was always like a Bob Marley thing. That's what you want. Like, you know, that looks the best. And like, she said, I see these people and they have this all sectioned and they're nice. And I'm like, how could you do that? Like, you know, but I mean,
because everybody wants what they want
and that's,
for themselves,
you know? Yeah. And I mean, I know then it grows out and it starts to fill in, and it's a lot easier, and
I'm really waiting for wicks to like become a thing up in the East Coast, like up further north, further than Florida, because I would really like to work on that. I know I can combine locks. I don't
know what wicks are.
Wicks are really thick dreadlocks.
So essentially, like you have some wicks on your head naturally, like the big flat kind of wide ones, like that's a wick. But in Florida now they've come up with ways to crochet it, and they combine their locks, and they kind of they stick up in all different areas.
Very, very stiff.
Yeah, so there's like essentially there's a freeform wick, and then there's like the manipulated kind, but they only really maintain them about once or twice a year.
And I think I understand why.
Yeah?
Yeah. because, so from a loctician's perspective, right? When you have a section that's this big, okay, like just small, normal size, the hair that comes from the root to get to the center of, let me see if I can show you, like right here, doesn't have to go super far. All right. So I don't really want my clients to come in any sooner than 2 months in between maintenances. Like even at 2 months, I think it's too often, but some people really need to have a professional look for their job, or it's just what they really want. But if they come in any sooner, I don't have enough new growth to pull towards the center to lock it up. So now if you're talking about a section that's this big, think about how much length has to grow out of that in order for you to collect that new growth and bring it together at the root. Because that's what maintenance is. Like all maintenance is exactly the same. All maintenance, whether you're talking about interlocking, banding, twisting, crocheting, root rubbing, the idea is that we're putting the hairs at the root closer together so they have the opportunity to rub against each other to mat, right? So with a section that's that big, if someone came in, even at 4 months, you're on average, the average person's hair grows about 1/2 inch a month. And at 4 months, it's only grown 2 inches. It's still not quite enough to pull it close enough together. So they really need that new growth to come out in order to have hair to work with if you're manipulating them. I know I've had a couple clients, and I hope they come back to me, that have Afro texture hair and want the like more natural, like, and I'm just like, I can try to make that happen for you. I can definitely combine your locks in all different types of ways to let it freeform and just do its thing. I was like, but you know, because some people are trying to do it and their dreads are like just kind of falling apart, you know, and it's interesting. It's definitely a really different, unique look that I am finding to be so interesting that it's become popular.
Why is it from Florida? Like, why is it only there?
Essentially, it's because of Florida's got a really high Caribbean migrant rate.
Yeah.
So these wicks actually originate more so in the Caribbean. And I guess just because Florida is so tropical, like it's a perfect kind of environment for them. And yeah, it's a phenomenon, to be honest. Like I find it so fascinating. When I first discovered wicks a few years ago, I just decided like this is something I want to highlight on my channel as much as I can, because I just think it's so awesome that people are embracing these hairstyles that most people would think look ridiculous and they would probably shun you out of society for having it. But in Florida, there's a whole culture and community surrounding it now.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, they're really nice. So I mean, essentially, Bob Marley, like his hair was wicks because you let them just keep on combining as much as they want, right? That's essentially what a wick is until they've figured out a way to crochet them together. So like I actually experimented on one of my locks here. So this one was 5 locks at one point, and I crocheted it into a wick as I was trying to learn what she was doing to crochet them together.
That's great.
What I found is that like this wick versus like I have a natural one back here that I just kind of like let go on its own, and this is like maybe 6 or 7 of them. I just find like the structure of my natural one is a lot more of it's more spongier than this one that I created is kind of more flimsy. And I can feel the difference in the strength between this one I crocheted and this one that I've let go on its own. So
that's one of my biggest questions. I was actually trying to take a class with Dominique Retro Retwists in Tampa, and she's just been like really just very aware of COVID right now, so we weren't able to work that out. But one of my biggest things is like, so you had said, I think during the video, and it was something I wanted to address, you know, that crocheting, I forget how you worded it. Like you didn't say damage, but leave scarring in the dreadlocks, right? So I just want to give you my perspective on this, because I've
Sure.
been crocheting for 10 years now. It can, if it's done improperly, it can break hair, and that is not what we want to do. We need all the length in our hairs naturally to keep our dreadlocks strong.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a dreadlock and you are just stabbing away at it,
Mm-hmm.
and you're breaking hair and you don't even realize it, it might look fine right now, but in about 5 or 6 years, those hairs are going to start to disintegrate and things are going to start to break apart.
Mm-hmm.
So just talking to a few people who have seen wicks being created, because I haven't seen it in person. Again, people don't like to share their techniques online. I've been told that they're just crocheting the crap out of them. And so my question is, what's going to happen to these crocheted wicks in 5 or 6 years, 10 years? Are they still going to be maintained? When you combine our already dense, matured locks, that's creating extra weight. So how is that going to affect somebody's scalp in 5, 7, 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the freeforming, and I really thought about this because Patrick's hair really did shock me at like how spongy it was. And you just said you're the one in the back that's forming naturally is so soft and spongy, right? So you guys aren't palm rolling your hair. You're not condensing the hairs down.
Mm-hmm.
You're just allowing them to softly form and mat. And it creates more space inside the lock, more air, as opposed to dense hairs compressing into one area. And what's happening when you're crocheting multiple locks together is you are compressing the crap out of a ton of hair into one area. So, there are I'm really intrigued by the whole process of it, and I really do want to try it. I've been trying to order a mannequin from somebody, but she's just not on it. But I'm gonna order a couple Afro texture mannequins to work on this and create some extensions and combine some things. And I want to try the starter ones because I love the little pyramid shapes that the sections make. It's really, really cool.
But my hair always combined. I didn't start with this. This was probably 9 dreadlocks
you can see them in there.
When my hair was to my chin, they were all really, really thin. And, I had probably 200 of them. I don't know. But they all became now we've cut most of them off, but they just all did that naturally on their own. That was just, as my hair got longer, they got bigger. And then now, since she cut it, I want them really big. Now I want to go for the really, as big as my leg. But
he said to me during this appointment that he would not mind if all of his hair, the big flat plates that people grow, where everything mats together. He totally wouldn't mind if that happened to his hair.
She has pictures and videos of people coming to get rid of that. I cringe. It still bothers me. Why? Okay, now whatever's going on in Florida, these people are making these dreadlocks bigger. Why then, would you want to go and get the biggest dreadlock taken out? I don't know. I don't get it, but that's just, to me, it's the total opposite. The bigger, the better, the gnarlier, the better, the left alone, the better, but I mean, it's your hair. You do what you want. And to me now, the fact that there's a dreadlock culture in Florida, I was in Florida probably in the early 90s, and you had dreadlocks in Florida, whether you were white or black or Asian or whatever, it was what are you doing? If you were driving down the highway, I'd been pulled over, and right away it's where are the drugs? Where are the this? Those are some pretty big pants you have on. So much has changed. Well,
apparently it's still like that there, even though the
dreadlocks
are way more popular. They still get stereotyped and pulled over just for having these wicks. And I remember you saying in that video that you actually really do adore when there's one big dread, and this is the plica polonica. I've done videos on this in the past where it's kind of where everything just goes into one dread all the way back, and you're the first person I've heard say that you would really want that. And
I can't, to me, because when I was young and you would see these big Rasta guys in New York City, white or black, or like I said, Asian, Japanese, and they had that. That was like I said, that was like, wow, man, that dude put in some time. Like, and back then we didn't call it free forming, and there wasn't all these things. It was just like bigger's better, and that's what I want. And it was like, you know, I don't know how comfortable that would be when with my lifestyle, even right now, like if I could really do that. But I mean, you still see it now and then, and I'm always still blown away by it. I'm still always like, I don't know how those people come into Chris's salon and like she can even pull that apart. Like, I don't think I could even do that.
Oh, I don't know how they do it, honestly. The pain, and I can't express that enough. And you had mentioned it during the video because I was separating his hair.
Yeah, you did one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is, but yeah, it's like kind of separated.
Yeah, and I was like,
one of the big ones.
I did go through and separate some of his roots at the top because it was pulling. I could see it like pulling on his scalp, and I do try to use my fingers. I do try to do things as naturally as possible. I'm not trying to create this like perfect thing. I'm just trying to maintain somebody's locks. Some of my clients come in for the aesthetic aspect of it, but ultimately, like, my job, in my opinion, is to just make sure that their scalp is healthy and things are going in a good direction, you know, and to let them see what I see, because nobody really gets a bird's eye view of their scalp, you know. But when people come in with what I call extremely matted roots, and a lot of times it's because of neglect from depression or being hospitalized in a bed, and we have to go through and separate the pain that people go through with that. Like, I know myself, like, I wouldn't sit through it. It would just be buzz, and I'm growing my hair back. And
I had noticed that you were separating his locks with your hand.
Yeah.
And I know, like, exactly what you just said. A lot of people won't sit through it. I've been recently helping my girlfriend get dreadlocks, and she can't handle the pain of it. So I have to be really careful. And then with the amount of, like, I guess the amount of strength it took you to separate his, I'm like, man, he really doesn't care, and like, it doesn't hurt him, obviously.
Well,
no, it hurt.
Everybody's scalp sensitivity is different. Very, very much so. Different parts of our head can hurt more than others, can be more sensitive. Honestly, some days of the week, it's just like, I've had maintenance done on my locks where it's been like no big deal, and then I've had maintenance done where I'm like, fuck. Like, you know, I have some clients that sound like they have Tourette's when they get their maintenance done, and I have some clients that are like, this is nothing, you know. So it really depends on the person. I can say for anybody that's watching, if you are wanting to separate things from your hair and you are a little bit sensitive, you can definitely wet the hair down. Hair will break a lot easier, rip apart a lot easier when it's wet, and that can reduce the pain. The other issue becomes too is a lot of people, and this is what I do. So freeformers maybe just be like, well, screw it, I don't care about that. But if you just take locks that are fused together and you rip them apart, right? What ends up happening is you actually push more matting and knots down to the scalp. So like ripping them apart, that's good, that's a start. But ultimately, if you really want to detangle, you have to go in at the scalp. And like you saw in my video, it's like pinchers. You know, you really have to go through with the scalp and separate those hairs from one another and like really pull them apart. And that can hurt quite a bit, actually. So, you know, just be gentle, go slow. If it's hurting too much, stop, you know. I don't really recommend scissors ever on dreadlocks. Like, it's such a rare occasion that I will ever take a pair of scissors to somebody's hair. I use all sorts of tools. Like I even have like a seam ripper where I'm a knot geek. So like, and I encourage people, especially if you're freeforming, look at your locks up close and look how the hairs are all intertwined with each other. And especially if you have like lumps and bumps and loops and stuff, look at the hairs that are wrapped around, that cinched in certain areas that cause that tension for a bubble to pop out. Like, look at it. It's knots. That's ultimately what it is. So, you know, I don't really unless somebody comes in and asks for things to be removed, I don't just take it upon myself to like take knots and bumps and stuff out of somebody's hair. I respect everybody's wishes for their own locks, but I rarely will take a pair of scissors to cut people's hair, like to get through matting and stuff like that. I don't know. It's you're cutting off length, like that hair's supposed to be in your dreadlocks,
for sure.
Or around them if you're keeping a looser root. So yeah.
With your locks, I'm really fascinated with the color, two by the shape of your locks, because I see a lot of them are like crinkly.
Ready? Because you asked about this.
Okay.
So this is all right. So this is a wool dreadlock extension that I made and colored myself. It's a newer craft that I've taught myself during quarantine, and I am a natural violet head now. That's what I consider myself. I'm actually a natural redhead. I never colored my hair in my entire life until I was 34 years old. And the only reason I started to color my hair was because as a redhead, before our hair, most of us turn white, which I'm really hoping for. But before our hair turns white or silver, we lose the red pigment. So my hair wasn't vibrant anymore. It was very ashy. It was very dirty looking to me, and it was not complimentary next to my pale skin. So I had decided to start to color my locks, and I really did want to do purple, but again, I didn't even highlight my hair my whole life, because every hairstylist was like, don't ever color your hair. People pay hundreds of dollars to try to even come close. And they're right. They were totally right. But so when I first started coloring my hair, I just stained it. I didn't even bleach it. I just stained it like a bright burgundy. And after a couple years of that, I felt like confident enough that I was like, okay, I can go to purple. So everything that's purple in my hair is mostly my natural locks. And I bleached it out once. And then I just retouch my roots. So I am committed to violet. I don't really recommend that people that like to change up their hair color that have dreadlocks do that. The bleach is super damaging. Like, we're not getting regular haircuts. Somebody that, if you see someone that's changing their hair color up all the time that doesn't have locks, they're getting haircuts, they're getting treatments done to their hair, and you might not see really what's actually happening, the breakage. So there's only so much chemical that your hair can handle. And I'm committed to violet. And then how I change things up, because especially for me as a woman, as a hairstylist, as an artist, I get into moods. Like, I want to change things. So I wear removable extensions, and like these, like, they come in and out real quick. These are different. The ones I have in now are different than what I had in the video. I had like tie-dye kind of rainbow ones in there. But yeah, it's just a way for me to change up my hair. I do have some human hair extensions in my locks right now because I had a hawk for about 7 years, like a dread hawk. I had my sides shaved and a little bit underneath. So 3 years ago, my homie passed away, and I wanted to shave my head, and I thankfully had a moment of clarity and was like, no, I need to grow from this. I need to grow from this loss and somehow make something beautiful out of it. And I had asked myself if he would want me to cut my locks, and that answer is no. He loved my hair. So I decided to grow out my hawk. And that was a test of my patience, for sure. I looked at my clippers every single day, but I grew that out and locked it up and did add extensions to it. And those dreadlocks were this long when I locked it up.
Wow.
And it's 3 years later. So I'm really happy to say that this is all me up until here. And then that's just a little bit of an extension.
With that thread there that you just showed me, Mike, I had a question on what type of thread this is that's best for wrapping locks. What size is that?
I don't know what size this is. This has been in my hair for a long time. This is just for decoration. I would say anything natural. I really like hemp, cotton, something that's natural, that's going to dry easily.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really recommend wrapping locks where you can't see the hair anymore. That
Okay.
traps a lot of moisture, and they get really stinky really fast, and stinky means that you have mildew growing in there. So I do like the crisscross wraps. If people want, if their dreadlocks aren't making wild type of shapes and stuff, and you want that, that's a great way to get it, because you crisscross, and then the hairs themselves will like start to grow out of them and like create little lumps and things like that.
Cool.
So yeah, but I would say anything, like I don't know. I have a philosophy. If I like it and I want it in my hair and I can figure out how to put it in my hair, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. So yeah, but to me, more natural materials are better. There's some really cool, I know Patrick's vegan. I think you're vegan as well, correct?
Yeah.
There's some really cool vegan suede lacing.
Oh, cool.
It's super soft. It looks just like suede. I actually prefer it over leather lacing. And it comes in all different colors, and it dries really fast and works great. But yeah, whatever.
How many locks do you have natural, and then how many have you added in?
I think I've lost count, because I just locked up. I have, because I just locked up my fringe. I had like a big fringe for like 11 years, and I locked that up in February. So like I said, I think I said it to you last night, like my hair's been a 16-year experiment.
Yes.
I started out with 60 some, like almost 70 locks when I first started. They were much smaller. A lot of them combined together because of the freeforming that I did. I had a huge one. Patrick would be proud. It was like that big, like it was a big boy, and he was my favorite.
Of course.
Yeah, he was my absolute favorite, and I grew him out for, I want to say, about 7, maybe 8 years. But I did get a little bit of traction alopecia on my scalp from that, and I was starting to notice it, and I was messing around with the locks around it, like separating things and combing things out and resectioning, hoping that I didn't have to remove that big guy. But after about 1.5 years of just watching things, I was like, no, like I have a bald spot there, and it's not huge, but I don't want to be bald. So I cut that lock in half. It took me 3.5 hours to comb it out. I cried from pain. I cried from just having to do it. And then I cried because I had a bald spot. And that's one of the reasons why I had a fringe, because I got scared. Like I was just like I don't want to be bald up there. So I combed out the front of my locks at that point and just kept a fringe. And yeah, it's only been in the last few years, my coworkers, I've just had them like keep an eye on my scalp for me, because they can see it better. And, you know, you get familiar. Like I know my clients' heads at this point, like once I see them for a while. And I haven't lost any more hair. No hair has grown back in that spot. It is permanent. But I did feel more comfortable letting somebody, because I wanted my locks back. I did feel comfortable finally putting smaller sections up here. As much as I really do love big, thick, chunky locks. Like
who doesn't?
There's a lot of people that don't.
I know.
But I do love, I love that, like lush. I get jealous when people have such thick hair. You know, I wish I could have all that. So that's another reason why I add in extensions, because it just gives me more volume. It gives me more to play with, you know? Yeah.
How many locks do you have, Patrick?
Do you know now?
I don't even know. But like with me, the reattachment, I just kind of wanted to address that too. Like my dreadlocks were so old and so long, there was a lot that like I didn't want to give them up. Like there was a few where I was like, man, I really, really like I want this still in my hair. So it's kind of hard to let go. And that's why I was like, Krista, put that one back in, because it means a lot to me. It's very important. It's
sweet.
You know, it's like I'm still not quite ready to give that up. Like, yeah, maybe the length, but like, you know, it took a lot to get that one like that. And like, you know, 25 years of kind of playing with it. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I really don't want to lose that. But like, I know a lot of people are against that. And, you know, they don't think it's cool or whatever. But I mean, eventually it'll come out or it'll combine. Or if it doesn't, if it falls out, it falls out. Like,
or you hang it on your wall. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like I have
Awesome.
like dreadlocks on my wall.
That was so cool.
Dude, it's so you saw that?
Yeah, and you're like pulling it like a little soap puppet.
It honestly looks like, to me, and it's so funny because it feels like it, because no one has ever gifted me their lock. I do have in my house, actually, I had somebody who, out of depression, all of their hair matted into like one huge lock, and I do have the big knot from that because I do want to dissect it one day. It just smells really, really bad. So I need like my homie's coming from Los Angeles, and hopefully he's a graffiti artist. So hopefully he brings a mask, because I genuinely need something to like block it, because it's crazy. She had rot in the center of it, but no one has ever gifted me their lock. And it was it's funny because when he showed me what it was doing, because he was just sitting in the chair playing with it, I actually wanted it, you know? And I was like, that's weird. I'm not asking him for his dreadlock. And then he offered it to me.
Amazing.
And I was just like, yes. And I hung it up, and he gave me some homemade stickers, and I put his little homemade sticker in the middle of it. And to me, it kind of looks like a religious symbol, like on my wall. And I think it's just so cool because it is meaningful and spiritual in that sense, you know? And I'm just like, I love it. It's like meant to be there. It's right next to my station. I look at it every single day. I love it. It's amazing.
Anytime I've cut my hair, I have them all.
Me too.
Like, you know, like they're always, I have drawers in my house where it's like, this was from the first cut, that was in the third cut. Like, you know, and you can see too, some of them are very thin, like my pinky, and that's when they were shorter, and other ones, like, you know, there was one other time my hair was almost as long as it was there. It was to my knees, and, you know, I cut it fairly short, and like some of those, it's like, wow, like my hair got long again, and it's like, how did this regrow to that so quickly?
Once you start noticing growth, like a lot of times people will think their locks aren't growing or their hair isn't growing. It's a weird phenomenon. You know, you're having all this tightening that's happening at the same time, or even faster than your hair is growing. But once your locks get to a certain weight, the weight is what causes you to see the growth, because now the weight at the bottom is keeping the new growth, the new part that's locking, from tightening up so much.
True.
Hence why it's softer. And yeah, you just, once you see that growth, because I think you mentioned it earlier today, it's growing. It's like a weed, you know? And I've cut my locks about 8 times now in 16 years. I think 7 or 8 times. I've kind of lost track. My hair would be dragging on the ground, and Patrick's hair in 30 years.
Yeah.
We were sitting here, I don't know if you can see behind me, but like his hair would probably go like down there and like down the steps at this point in 30 years. It's like there. Unless somebody, it's every once in a while you'll get somebody who has slow growing hair. But on average, we all grow about a ½ inch a month. So yeah, 6 inches, what's 6 times 30? 180.
Yeah. It always seemed to me 6 inches a year. The dreadlocks seem to grow a little faster, because I've always felt the hair that falls out stays in. So it's
like a never-ending rope.
Yeah, so it's kind of growing at both ends. Like, you know, whatever you're losing up here is kind of getting stuck along the way. So you're kind of, because like the ends too will change over time too. Like, you know, I had ends that I absolutely hated, and then it was, you know, 10 years later, it's like, wow, that got like really nasty and cool and stubby. Like,
sick.
You know, and it was just from that hair that's falling, getting stuck.
The ends haven't started fraying yet. I know. No. I was really curious to see this, and I'll be curious in a few weeks. But that's the big plate. So far it hasn't started fraying. There you go. You can see the inside of it.
Yeah, I love the way that you had cut it too.
Not
straight across.
Hell no! I will try to talk any person that wants to trim their locks.
No, don't cut them straight across.
When I see people do that, especially like when they go like this straight across.
No. And like I've cut them myself at times, and it's like you still even want to kind of always cut even an angle, you know, because then as the other hair starts kind of fraying down, it'll still have like a nice end. But straight across is.
What was the number you counted on his locks there?
It's either 13 or 14. I couldn't reach my arm all the way around, but it's like 13 or 14. And I did not count his extra ends. That's just what's growing out of his roots.
One, right?
Yeah.
I just have to run to the bathroom real quick, and then I have another question here that I kind of want to wrap it up with.
Sure.
But just give me one
second. I want to talk about the frizz too.
1 second.
Sure. He's cool, man.
Very nice.
Yeah.
You're always off Mondays? That's like when all salons are closed. Right?
Sundays and Mondays, typically. It depends. Like there would be an occasional day that like if I take vacation, I'll work. But yeah, I have to give myself time off. It's been wild. It's been absolutely wild. I'm booked into January.
I know.
Right now, which is insane. But
whatever.
It's a good problem to have.
Doing what you like.
Yeah, man.
All right, I'm back.
Perfect.
So I wanted to ask. Well, at first I wanted to just make sure that we covered everything within that text that you had sent me.
Yeah, it was funny. I thoroughly enjoyed your video, and I wish I would have recorded myself with a reaction, because I genuinely was like, no, I didn't do that, or yeah, but this is how it is, or this is what the string is, because I love to talk about, as you can tell, I love to talk about dreadlocks and what I do, and I love to share, and I love when people are curious about what's happening, because that's, again, a bond, we share a love for this, and
you brought that out in me, because I don't like to talk about it. Over the years, it's kind of become unless you really have them, or you're cool, I don't want to get into the whole thing with you. I don't want to get into the whole Rastafarian thing. I don't want to get into the whole thing of, do you think you're a black person, or what gives you the right to do that? It's I don't want any trouble. It's just the way my hair is. It's the way it's always been. It became my spiritual path. It became my religion as I've gone along with it. And, I don't know how people find religion. Maybe it's you're about to die on your deathbed. Maybe it's from skateboarding and meeting Rastafarian dudes in New York City. That's how I kind of found my life. And it was from the dreadlocks. I just liked the way that looked from day one. It was kind of the lifestyle I was living. And then even up to now, I met Krista now, and we're on the same wavelength.
That's amazing to me that he can say that we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah, because we're total opposite.
Yeah, because, and you might remember too, you were on the message boards back then too, right?
Very rarely.
So I was hated when by the what I consider the natural dreadlock community, when I first started posting because I was on the message boards as a dreadhead trying to just get answers, and there's just such crazy advice that we were all giving each other, and it was just insane and funny to look back
that
on.
Message board, I have a feeling that it was a website. I don't know, maybe the website it was, but
Princess Callie's.
What's it called?
There was one called Princess Callie or something like that way back when, who used to make dreadlock products. She had a form. That was one of the first ones I ever saw.
Well, this one I'm thinking of is called dreadloxsite.com. Is this the one that you're on by any chance?
I really don't remember. I was on a few different things because I was on some synthetic dread extension sites. I was on a bunch of different things, so I don't know, but I know that when I started talking about what I was doing with my clients, I got a lot of backlash from those people. It's so much so that I stopped participating in the conversations, because I was told that my clients did not have real dreadlocks, that I was like disrespecting the culture, that and I understand it now, but I didn't, because I didn't, I don't know, like I didn't want crazy dreads. You know, it's what I got, and I learned to accept them and love them, and then I learned how to transform them.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, I was already working on locks for 2 years before I went to cosmetology school, and the only reason I went was so that I could do this legally without getting in trouble. And all my cosmetology school teachers told me that I would never build a full book just doing dreadlocks. They told me I was putting all my eggs in one basket, and I was like, I love you guys, I appreciate that, but you have no idea what you're talking about, because I needed someone like me. And I knew that there were other people out there because I was already working on them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like from the natural community, and there might be, whenever you put this video together and you post it, there might be some haters and be like, dude, like,
but like with that,
but it's also my personal truth.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, and like what I believe deeply, what I know I feel for my own hair, for my clients' hair, for every person, even the haters. I fucking love your hair. I love it and I respect it.
But like, I look at it bigger too. Like, at some point, like, there's a lot of race things going on right now. There has to be a middle ground. There's going to have to be somewhere where we meet and everything is cool, whether it's skateboarding, surfing, dreadlocks, snowboarding. Like, those are the things I'm into. And if I meet you, I see that first. Hey man, sure. She's got dreadlocks. That's cool. Maybe they're fake. Maybe they're real. I don't know. But I want the world vegan. I want the world dreadlock. I don't want to walk into a restaurant in Florida and someone say, hey, fuck you. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, no, I want that better. I want more friends with dreadlocks. Like, I like it. It's my lifestyle. We have something in common. We're cool. Krista and I, back 30 years ago, this was Babylon. This was wrong. Like, you don't make dreadlocks out of synthetic like that. There's no way. Like, you know, but then over time, I started to realize, like, she's doing a good thing. There's other people now with dreadlocks. You know, those people, they need to learn then from me that you put your hair like this. This isn't just like a style, like Krista just said. Things start coming along with this, and this is kind of like a path to a different world, to enlightenment, to a religion, to, you know, it makes a statement. And I've kind of gotten to the fact that, like, too, like, you wear your hair in dreadlocks, you're going to have to expect hate. You're going to have to expect, like, even when I was looking at the comments, judgment. Yeah, there's a lot of people like, oh, I wouldn't have cut it. I wouldn't have done this. And that's cool, man. And it's like, I actually like that, because it gives people, they have the opinion on, yeah, I would have left it. And that's cool. But, you know, I don't know, man, 35 pounds on your head and sleeping at night and you can't do the things you want to do. And I work, I mean, there are times where I'm working and it's raining. Like, I can't wear a hood anymore. Like, when my hair was that long, like, and then if it's sticking out of the back of my coat, everywhere I go, people are like, what the fuck is that tail sticking out of you? Like, and it's like, come on, man. Like, you know, so then I got to put it up and it becomes a big hassle. But it's just, you know, over the course of the years that it's kind of all blended together. Like, you know, now we're friends. Like, me going to a loctician or to a beauty parlor in 1995 would have been like, what are you, crazy? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, but she's a good person. She's doing a good thing. I respect her. I like what she's doing. She's doing it on the right level of, like, me. Like, you know, these people come to her and she's explaining to them what's going on. Like, it's not super cuts. It's not like get in a chair and get out and give me your money. Like,
no, I really,
you know, there's a lot to it.
I really believe in educating my clients. I believe in empowering them in their own journeys.
Definitely.
Because that's what it's all about.
And
and
the level of acceptance that you are helping to create as well, that both of you guys, the level of acceptance that you're emitting is what is truly needed. Because I remember the exact same situation was when I first got on trying to find information about dreadlocks. I came across some forums and I posted pictures of my hair and what I was doing, and I got shunned out completely, and I never returned to these forums. And I decided I'm just going to create my own community. you know, and this is how we've gotten Not Nation now, because the original dreadlocks, they weren't accepting of, you know, the styles or the knowledge that I was trying to attain back then.
Love it.
Yeah, and nowadays, like there's like you said, there's so many techniques and methods that you can use to create locks, whether it's natural, whether it's manipulated, and essentially, you're right. We all need to come together and accept everybody's locks, because at one point or another, you're still taking that step into a hairstyle that is a culture, and you know, just you need to accept everybody within it, because
And
from
many cultures,
yeah,
many cultures,
for
you know.
sure.
I always say, like, people will be like, oh well, it's funny, like, when people refer to their hair as their race. I
Hmm.
have black hair, I have white hair.
Yeah,
Those are colors to me, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
I understand very much so, like, what Black people, especially here in this country, have dealt with having black hair and not having stylists that can work with it. So I understand when somebody calls the salon and says, do you do black hair? Like, yes, if you, as long as you are not bald or balding, I
Hmm.
can do your hair.
But you can do bald, just put the synthetics.
Not exactly. No, I actually had a consultation yesterday that I did, and they're definitely. It looks like male. I'm not a hair loss specialist. It looks like male pattern baldness on the top, but it definitely looks like possibly tension alopecia, like a very, very far back, oddly shaped, receding hairline. And I told that gentleman, I was like, I don't feel comfortable working on your hair. There's a great lock shop in Philadelphia that does specialize in hair loss specifically, and they do locks as well. So I referred him to them, because again, somebody's scalp and the health of their hair is way more important than the money that goes into my pocket, you know.
Definitely.
So yeah, I don't know, to me it's like we're all freaking human. We all have a scalp that grows hair from it. Every hair texture can lock. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Like, nobody can tell me any
Yeah, so have
different.
I.
Every single hair texture can
Everyone.
lock. So to me, it's just like, yeah, this is. I personally I laughed, like, when he said that he wants to see everybody dreadlocked, because I do too.
Hmm.
Because to me, it's just so beautiful. Like, every person that I've started locks on, to me, looks like 1,000 times more like themselves
For
when their
sure.
hair is locked. I can't explain that. It's just like, these were meant to be, you know, even when they look crazy and they're sticking up and they're messy and fuzzy and frizzy in the beginning. And it's just like watching that transformation into who that person actually is. Like, it's beautiful. It's absolutely
It is.
beautiful.
It is. It's
Yeah,
almost like art. It's our nature's art in itself. It really is.
absolutely. I love that. I love that
But what other
analogy for
haircut
sure.
causes all that? I mean, maybe skinhead thing, that has a whole thing going on with it. But like, like I just think it's funny. If you see someone with just like the flat top, you don't walk up to them and say, "Hey, man, where'd you get that flat top?" Or "Who do you think you are?" Or
Hmm.
your crew cut. Like, but this causes emotion, and
It
it's
does.
in the comments. It's in the and I like that. Like, and I like if you don't like it, because I'll come back at you, because it's been a long time, and it's like, you name it, I've done it. Like, they've been short, they've been long, I've had them in my beard, I've had anything and everything in my hair, zip ties to anything. And it's just, if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. If you want to hate on it, you can hate on it too. And that's up to you, and that's cool. But it's what I like. It's my
Hmm.
hair. It's
Deep down, you're
just,
accepting of what it is,
and it's just always been the way I am. Like, Krista
yeah.
has glasses. No one who knows me, Patrick had dreadlocks. That's what I am. It's locked and rooted in my head. If I go bald, which I'm not even afraid of doing, they're going to get really long, and they're going to be wrapped on the head as like my giant crown still.
I have a client, her husband, I don't remember what nationality he is, and that doesn't even really matter, to be honest with you, but he has, like, he's been locking his hair for years, probably almost as long as Patrick. And she said he's down to 2 locks. Like, he's lost all his hair, and
Yeah.
she hates it. She has locks. She hates it. She's like, it looks horrible. I don't know what he's holding on to. And I'm like, they're meaningful to him. Like, he doesn't want to let them go. And like, that's, to each their own. You know,
Exactly.
everybody has their own thing. I always laugh because, like I just wouldn't wear my hair in like a short straight bob with like blonde highlights. But like I'd never walk up to like that person and be like, why do you do that to your hair?
Yeah, exactly.
Like why would you wear your hair like that? I don't judge, and sometimes when things are very different and misunderstood and not known about is where judgment comes from, because now you're here. I remember my own mother being like, oh, why would you do that to your hair? I don't think my mom knew one single person with dreadlocks in her entire life. So like in my mind, I'm like, because when she saw them, she was like, oh wow, they're really pretty. I didn't expect it to look like that. I'm like, so who does my mom know that has dreadlocks? Bob Marley, maybe Whoopi Goldberg. So like, was she picturing like their actual black afro locks on me? Because yeah, that would look a little silly, But if my mother, who is my mom's like Martha Stewart, like very proper, very fancy, like, she has a nice dinner party. Probably kind of why I'm a little bit of a weirdo. But, if my mother can change her opinion on dreadlocks and even my tattoos, I think we all can. I think everybody can. And the reason my mom has changed her opinion is because I've talked to her about it. And we've had those conversations, and she's smelled my hair, or she's hugged me and be like, oh, you smell so good. I'm like, thanks, that's my hair. It's like, that's one of the nicest compliments you can give me, is to tell me that I smell good. So yeah, I think, even when people throw hate, that's an opportunity to have a conversation.
Exactly.
And to listen. And I don't mean a conversation to argue your point. I mean a conversation to genuinely hear each other, like we're doing today, genuinely hear each other. And even if we don't agree with it at the end of the conversation, just respect that we have different opinions, respect that we have different reasons for doing this, respect that, the way somebody was brought up is why they have their deep core beliefs in their life, in their spiritual life, in their hair, and whatever it is that they do. We all have what's important to us, and I don't think it's anybody's right to take that away from anybody else.
Definitely.
We're not all going to agree on everything. If we did, we sure as shit wouldn't be going through what the hell we're going through right now. And
one thing
year,
I really don't like when people come up to me, and it's always like, my friend Jimmy Joe had dreadlocks that were 6 miles long. And I'm not doing this for a contest. I'm not doing, like, I've had it 30 years, but before Chris and I have talked, like, you wouldn't have seen me doing this. I'm doing this for her because I like her. I like what she's doing. It's a good environment. She's doing a good thing. But like I said, it took 2 years for me to decide this, of her and I talking on almost a weekly basis.
Yeah,
of like,
we actually planned a couple meetups, like even
and
just
I got scared.
Just for me to look at his hair, not do anything, just to look at.
But
I was like, I'll take a look at your scalp.
I'm always
like
loctician money, but like I was just saying, like, I really don't like when people come up to me and, oh, so-and-so's were so much longer. And there was one of the comments, like, I've been locking my hair for 22 years and I would never add one back in that. And it's like, it's not your journey. It's not your hair. People's lifestyles.
And respect to that person for making this.
That's what I mean. And that's cool, man. You've been in 22 years. I'm not in a contest with you. And if I am, you won. You can win. I'll cut mine short. I'll grow them long. I don't care. That's what it is. Like, but you have dreadlocks and that's cool. So we can be friends. Maybe. I mean, if you want to be a dick, you want to be a dick, but it's something in common. It's, I just don't, it's not a contest, man. It's not like, it's totally different. Like, Krista has synthetic, Krista has crazy colors. And I like that. It's different. It's different than mine. Yours is much different. You have like much more texture in yours. They're very long. They're thick. I really like that. I dig that. And you're into the freeform. So it's like, we have dreadlocks. We're into the freeform. Okay, cool. Guess what? I'm vegan. You're vegan. Okay, cool, man. You want to skate? Yeah, let's skate. I'd like to do that. Like, those are good things. Like, and that's how Krista
Sure.
and I kind of met. Like, Krista skates. She doesn't skate like I do, but
I taught myself how to skate 3 years ago.
she rides, and
I
that's
ride.
cool. And it's not how you ride or the tricks you can do, it's that you ride. And that's like, we're another level, we're connected. Like, so that makes me even like her more. Like, we relate more. Like, it's not like I'm going to some bald head guy that's doing dreadlocks like that. I'm not about that, man. Like, that's like an establishment that I want nothing to do with, but this is good. Like, and like I said, I want to let her do what she does. She wants to make a fake dreadlock. Okay, Krista, let's make one that's, as big as it can be.
It wasn't as big as it could be, but it was definitely the biggest lock.
Let's do it. Let's let you go. Like, take her off the leash, add back in whatever you want. I mean, we were toying with, like, she had this bright yellow one hanging on a string, and I'm like, man, maybe we should do that. Like, because I see these things that she posts all the time, and it's like some of these girls, and they do the crazy colors. I'm like, no, man, maybe I should try it. Like,
and if you're going to try color, synthetic's definitely the way to go. Like, or an extension is the way to go, because you're not damaging your natural hair at all. I really try to get my clients, like, I know extensions are cheating, guys. Like, I get it. Like, they definitely are cheating the length. However, there's situations, again, we're just not judging, but like, I will try to get my clients not to bleach their hair unless they can genuinely, and I don't even think anyone can honestly say that. Like, I'm committed to being violet. You will never see me orange or green or anything else, because I don't want to damage all this. If I'm going to add in color, it's going to be through extensions. So there's all sorts of reasons why people use extensions. I mean, personally, like, if I would have locked up my bang, like in February, my dreads would be like these little tiny things sticking straight off my head, and I don't give a fuck. I do not. I don't want little, like,
I do
little wiggly worms.
Unicorn.
They're like complete opposites. I love it.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. And like, it's just gonna take forever for my hair to catch up. And I am at the point where I trim my hair. Honestly, it seems to be now about every year and a half. I'll take about 10 to 12 inches off. Oh, wow. And I'm about ready to do that again. Shedding. Yeah. And I have reached the point where trimming my hair doesn't cause an anxiety attack. It's still emotional. It's still an experience to be had, but it is a shedding. And for me, it's weight. It gets to a point where I can't wear it up anymore. I can just like do my bun and like, that's it comfortably. And I will not put extra tension on my head. I have been traumatized from losing some hair. I'm not going to lie about that. But yeah, it's just, it gets in the way of my life. As a female, you sit on the toilet like almost every time you go, or if you're in a public restroom and you're squatting, now you're trying to make sure that your hair is not touching the disgusting public bathroom floor. So, like, there's hygiene things. I've definitely, like, I clothesline myself in my front door, and like, I'm so thankful I didn't severely injure myself, but like my hair, like walking into the front door with a case of water in my hand, got stuck in the storm door. And I was like, and like, yeah, it just, for me,
that, like, was things that happened to me too on a daily basis. Like every day I go to work and it would be in the car door.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I was like, I don't even care, man. Like, when I get to work, it'll come out.
Because it's going to grow back too. Like, that's the other
but it's
thing.
like, that's just the way it is. Like, my hair's sticking out the car door. Like, whatever. It's when I get to work, I get out and it's there. But like that too. Yeah. I'd walk out the door and it's like, but yeah. Whatever, it's going to grow back, and it'll be longer now and it'll be different. So
for sure.
That's what it's about.
I mean, for my last question, I always like to ask if you guys could share a bit of value, anything valuable that you've learned in life or with locks. It could be attaining to anything, but if you could leave the podcast with a little bit of value for the viewers to take away with them, what would it be?
I already know what I want to say. Do you know what you want to say?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Find your purpose in this world. Every single one of us has it. when you go to make money every day, or you go someplace to make money to pay your bills, make sure it's something that you enjoy doing. Try your best, like keep going. Quit your job when you need to and find something new. Try something new. I can't express that enough to you. Like, my career has been, aside from my daughter, has been the biggest blessing in my life. To be able to do something that I love every day and make a living off of it. I'm not like making six figures or anything. I make a living, and I've worked my ass off for it. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I have worked my ass off, and I will continue to, because I love it. But yeah, just keep going until you find something that you love to do, because I've seen so many people hate their job, and I've been there too, where I'd come home and cry every night, and to come home and just be like, if anybody asked, like, oh, how was your day at work? It was amazing. It was amazing, So to me, yeah, because we have to work for life in modern society, and I don't know, I just feel like do what you love and keep searching for that. If even if you're older, like, I really struggled with that. I was in my young 30s, and I was like so down on myself. Like, I don't understand, like, what am I supposed to be when I grow up? And sometimes it just takes some of us a little bit longer to get there, and we learn a lot along the way. So just keep going, and yeah.
Strive for a purpose.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't know. For me, it's just things I've said. Like, and people are going to hate on it, and people aren't going to like it, and people will like it, but it's cool, man. I take it either way. It's, whatever in the comments, tear me apart. I don't really care. It is what it is. But like I said, it's not a contest. I'm not in contest with your brother, with your sister, with your uncle. Like, everyone's journey is separate. And I've seen things kind of coming along, and it's like some of these other things now have to be learned, like, because there's not too many of us that have hair this long. Like, we're the first wave of, like, people from the 80s and the 90s that are now still like this, and it has become my life. Like, like, when I'm old and gray, I'm probably still going to have it. I mean, I don't know, maybe I won't, but it's just my thing. And it's just the way it goes. Like, I'll always skate, I'll always surf. I mean, those are the things I do. And dreadlocks is part of that. It's just, meeting new friends. And, like, if you come up to me on the street, just be cool. We'll be friends. I'm not judging you. I don't want to fight with you, man. I don't want any trouble.
This is what we mean by lifestyle. Like, in case anybody watches this and doesn't really understand that, or is just starting out on their journey, like, this is what I mean by lifestyle. Like, it's a connection. It's just part of your life. It's the way the food you consume, the news and information that you consume, the things that you do for fun, for joy, creativity, whatever it is, that's your lifestyle, right? And this becomes part of our lifestyle. So, and I think that happens for almost everybody, even the people that just start out just like, hey, I really like that. I don't know what it is about it, but it looks really cool, and I want to try it. And
for all the people that don't like it, you're going to be so many that do, and that will become your friends and help you along the way. And, like, I don't like religion too. Like, I'm a loose practicing Rastafarian, but I'm not. There's parts of the religion I don't like. Like, I really don't like the way women are into the religion. I don't follow that, but I like the clean living. I like that they believe in, like, this. Selassie was actually a living man. That makes sense to me. When I heard these things, they talked to me, and that the hair came with it. I don't really believe in a God that never existed or some fantasy ghost. That never appealed to me. But someone that's living and doing good things and is going to, lead Africa, those things really spoke to me. And then, like, the PMA thing, like I said before, that whole thing of that really talked to me. And I'm not saying I'm a better Rasta person than you, or, it is what it is. Like, it's just things that I like.
It's meaningful to you.
Right. And, like, Chrissa's not that, but am I going to hate her? because she's not that? No. And we're back to, again, she has dreadlocks. They're cool colors. It's punk rock. It's pushing forward. It's more dreadlock people that, you know, that's a good thing to me. Like, you know, and whether yours are better or worse, or, I mean, they're just all different. Like, might be someone with just one. I met a lady once, had one long one, totally bald, and a long one that was past her feet. And it was like, wow, man, like that's different. That's cool. But like, well, I could have been like, oh yeah, man, you're half bald. That ain't right. That's not Rasta. Like, you know, you're a bald head. Get out of here. Like,
oh man, I love those people.
I mean, like, that's, you know,
I actually met somebody.
She's down. She's cool.
I actually met somebody with the big long plate. And this is a cool story. Do you have a second for me to tell this?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I went to the Atlantic City. I live right next to Atlantic City, New Jersey, and at the beach. And I went to the Atlantic City Beer Fest, which is weird because I don't really drink, but it was just something to do. And we're walking by a food truck, and there was a white woman with a plate, like Patrick's like dream hair, that was probably, honestly, about the size of a dictionary. It was huge. And I was with my co-stylist, and I was like, oh my God, I want to get a picture of that. And then I was like, no, that's so rude. And I was like, I'm going to go talk to her, you know? And she was just standing in line.
That's what I'm talking
about.
And
I walked up to her and I introduced myself, and I said, you know, I'd really like to talk about your hair, and not in any type of degrading way. And I was like, I am in love with locks, and I love what happens when our hair mats.
But you had your dreadlocks, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This was just like a couple years ago.
It's like, hey man, she's cool. Like,
so I got to, and she responded, like, she looked at me kind of quizzically, and then she responded well. And, you know, I just asked her what had happened, and, you know, how her hair formed like that. And she had told me she had been hospitalized for like over 1.5 years, bedridden, and her hair just really matted, and she just let it go. And I asked her if I could touch it, which I know is faux pas, but like, I touch people's hair every day. And that was like, I don't know, once in a lifetime kind of thing. And she let me. It was probably about that thick, and it just came straight off her back. It was spongy, and it was perfectly rounded at the bottom, perfectly. And what I found to be interesting was that it did not smell either, was that her hair up here was still, she was still brushing this. So it would start to mat like right around, like right below her crown. And you know, she explained to me, she's like, yeah, I was brushing it thinking that maybe it would eventually stop matting. And I didn't bother explaining like why it continued to, like, she was just going with it. But she said she was thinking of like trimming it off. And I thanked her for her time, and I did not take a picture of it or make a spectacle of her. I just really wanted to talk about it and just connect, you know, because as soon as I finished that conversation, the guy behind me was like, oh, what is that? One big dreadlock? And it's just like,
who would want that?
Okay. So, you know, it is just being about whatever it is that you're about, you know. What you're about, Jonathan, is probably different than what I'm about, and what Patrick's about, and every other human being. That's what makes us all beautiful and unique. And just like our hair and our journeys, our dreadlocks, like everything just makes us beautiful and unique. And it would be really weird and dumb if everything was exactly the same.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like, I don't know. Like, I give my clients like all the options they want when they want to start their locks. What size do you want them to be? How do you want your ends to look? How do you want your scalp to look? You know, like, and give people things to think about, like, and talking about in the future. And, you know, and sometimes people can't even envision it, you know, and what somebody's hair does afterwards, it might not actually get to be exactly how you envisioned it. You know, mine sure as shit didn't. My hair
you did it for me.
Yeah.
Like, I want that kind of, even the length. The other day, I'm like, I like this. Like, it's different than the down to my ankles. Like, it's, I didn't regret it. Like, I did it, and I'm like, wow, man, this looks cool. Like, I look like fucking HR. Like, you know, I got the big one here. They're different lengths. They're, you know, that's what I like. That, you know, maybe next time when I'm 70 years old, it's going to be the beaver tail. Like, because I'm not going to care. It's like, whatever, you know. And maybe I'll come to you and say, yeah, make me the beaver tail.
Mm-hmm.
Let's whatever it is, wick my whole head together. Like, I don't know, like, you know, but it's good. Like, I like that you're doing this. I like that now, because I'm not even really, I don't really embrace like technology and things. I mean, I do, but it's kind of like I said, it's getting the dreadlock word out there. There's a whole gamut now of different people that do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some religious, some punk rock, some like shaving the sides of your head and having dreadlocks.
Mm-hmm.
That's one to me that's absolutely no way, man.
Yeah, he doesn't understand like the girls that don't lock up the top part of their head and they'll have like,
you could do a whole show
locks
on that. Like when they have the bangs, like you had at one time, like, you know, they don't lock their bangs, and it's always, I always thought there was some weird secret thing with that, because like skinhead girls always have the, like, you know, the back of their head is shaved, but they still always have like the front. I'm like, maybe it's something cool with that, like, you know, they're these rude girls, and that's like, you know, but I never wanted to ask one of them. I was just like,
it's an aesthetic,
and I never knew that.
Yeah,
I was just kind of like,
for
oh,
most
man, there must
people,
be something
for
with
most
that,
people,
but
it's an aesthetic. For some people, it's just they want to. They're scared to start locks, so they feel like if they just start a few, it's not. If they decide they don't want it, like, you know, it's and that usually ends up just becoming like 100% of the time more locks on their head. Like, you know, some people are just fearful to jump in, and I don't know. It's more work, to be honest with you, when you have all that brushable hair with it.
Yeah. To me too, the shaved sides is like, I'm half skinhead and I'm half like Rasta guy. It's like those two, to me, that's like the ultimate no-no. But if I saw Krista on the street, like, yeah, it's cool, man, she's got dreadlocks, I got to get in her head a little bit and be like, come on, man, let's commit and let's do it real and let's make them big and fat. But, you know, maybe she'd want to do that, maybe she wouldn't, like, you know. But once again, we're going to kind of meet on a common ground, and, you know, and it's good, like this podcast, that like we can get that out there, that there's, you know, there's girls that don't dread the front of their hair. It's because it's cosmetic. Like I never knew that. I always thought there was some secret underlying.
Or for me, I was going bald up here.
Yeah, that's, you know? I mean, it's always kind of comes back to something that's part of the journey of doing it. Like, you know, whether you have 1 or 100, or they're thick or they're thin, like, I don't know. It's just, everyone's different. And when you talk to them, that's when you kind of find these things out, you know, just is what it is. And like with me too, like my lifestyle, my job, the things I do, you know, hair to my ankles, like I did not want to cut it. I really, really, really didn't. That wasn't really like an option, but it just got to a point where even I was like, man, this is getting like very difficult. Like every day sleeping.
Have you trimmed trimmed any of this, like anything that's on your head or your previous set? Like I know you cut off, but like, did you ever trim prior?
On my first set of interlocks, I had trimmed maybe a few months before I decided to fully cut them off. So it was for the length.
You cut them to nothing? Like
at first, well, they were 7 year long. I trimmed them to about back up to my shoulders.
Yeah.
About half the length.
Like I did.
Yeah, but I kind of did it in the straight across way. So I didn't like the way it looked after anyways. So it made my decision easier to cut them off completely after that. And I had just cut them down to like an afro. And then I went to the barber and he shaved my head down to like a fade.
Yeah.
And that was my process with trimming. So I've only ever trimmed them once. And this set, I haven't trimmed them at all. I haven't done anything to them.
Would you? Or are you going to let it go all the way?
I don't think I could get them all the way, as long as, like, I think maybe your length would be the maximum I could get, but I'm aiming to get 10 years out of it. I'm going more on the years. I just never been to double digits with any set of hair.
Mine with the weight, like there's a lot of things in dreadlocks too that like I didn't know a lot of these things, and there's a lot of things like the dread balling and stuff with the frizz I figured out on my own, and they became a thing. But like with the length, a thing that I found is like I would have to literally put my hair in a backpack, like because it was so long and so heavy, and the hats weren't working anymore. And one day, like I did that, like I put the backpack on. I'm like, wow, man, this kind of works. And as I was getting closer to the cutting date with Krista, I was like, I don't know, man, this backpack's getting kind of cool. Like I could probably go another 3 or 4 feet, like you know. But a lot of other things become very hard still. Sleeping, washing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I would do is like Krista said, I would mostly do like a scalp wash. You know, like once a month I'd actually wash the whole thing in the winter because the drying thing again. But like, you know, the backpack was kind of a game changer. That was kind of like, I don't know, man, this might work. So maybe next time that'll become my thing. Like, you know, once they get to my ankles, we'll go to the backpack. Like,
yeah. Well, to me, the minute I saw your locks, I immediately thought Damian Marley, like 100%. It just looked like it from the back.
I wish.
And the fact that you even said you put him in a backpack, that's literally what he does when he plays sports.
Oh, really?
Google it, and he puts his backpack on, he puts all his locks in there, and then he'll go and play soccer.
See, like, once again, that's just a thing. Necessity came to me. Like, one day I was like, wow, you know, when you want to carry something, you put it on your back. I'm like, I have all this hair I'm carrying. I'm going to put it on my back. Like, and it worked. Like, you know, maybe if I knew that, they'd still be here. I don't know. But I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't do that. So
I see some people nowadays with they do that to carry their children. They put the children on their back of their neck, and then they wrap their locks around and they carry it like that.
That's so great. I love that.
Pretty it's getting really creative with what we can do with our locks these days.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there's a woman that has I think that holds the world record for the longest locks, and I know she was carrying them around in a baby satchel actually for a while. They're wild and so well cared for. It's to me, that's the most unbelievable part of it.
I think her name is Ashna something.
Yeah, I can't pronounce. I can't. I don't want to butcher it. I can't pronounce it. But yes, you're correct. Yeah.
I'm coming for her. I'm coming for you. This round, we'll see.
This round here. That's awesome. Cool. Well, I definitely appreciate you guys stopping by and chopping it up on the podcast today. I've always loved
it. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, so do I.
And
it's a good thing.
And taking the initiative to walk away from people that were closed-minded to you and your thoughts, and opening up communication for people to really learn from each other. Because that's really why I wanted to talk to you. Like at the very end of your thing when you were like, hey, if you're listening, like I would love to talk to you. And I was like, yes, because I'm a geek, so I look for, like, we're all dreadlock geeks, you know, like I look for that. I love that connection and communication. I invite that, you know, just like you said, like there was never a message that I ignored. I don't ignore my followers. People think I'm crazy. They're like, you answer everybody. I'm like, pretty much. Like if you send me something ridiculous or just say hi, I'm not responding to that. But if you genuinely ask me a question about your hair or about dreadlocks, if I don't have time, I'll get back to you when I can. But I try to communicate with everyone because it's just, I believe in this, like, and I encourage that. I encourage people to ask questions. I encourage people to be curious about it. I encourage people to talk about it. Listen. You're a good listener, by the way, Jonathan.
You see both sides.
You're an incredible listener, because I've been paying attention to that. Because sometimes I'm like, am I rambling? And then when Patrick's talking, I'm watching, and you're taking it in. And like, that's a beautiful part of your personality, your soul. Like you're taking it in. And I think a lot of people can learn from that. Look up active listening if you don't know what that is. It's important. It's important in communication, and it's important in understanding and connecting with people, you know, to really listen and not just listen to talk.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Well, and I wouldn't be here either, because I saw what you did, and you weren't like ripping me apart. You're like, wow, I like the way he's dressed. And that's cool. It wasn't just like, oh man, look at this guy cutting his hair. Or even if it was on the other side, like, yeah, just cut it all off. Like, but no, you were like, you know, this is a rare thing, which I never even thought of that before I did this. I didn't think anyone really had much interest in it, but obviously I guess they do. But you kind of brought that to light to me. I was kind of like, well, yeah, I guess, but you were cool about it. And that's, you know, you could have ripped me apart. You could have been like, yeah, who does this guy think he is with hair down to his ankles? Like, no, but you were like understanding and cool about it. And that's why I'm here, because it's like, hey, this guy gets it. He understands. He's seeing all sides of this hair.
You just wanted
like,
to be a supermodel.
Yeah, that too. I'm going to be a dreadlock model. Next thing,
That's what he said to me the one day when it like he just couldn't believe the support and everything from Instagram, like just from our little dreadlock community on there. And he was like, I feel like I'm a supermodel now. And then when you posted the video, one of my clients sent me your video actually.
Okay.
She's one of your followers, and she was like, dude, I just saw this, you got to check it out. And I was like, holy
Cool.
crap. So I sent it to him and I was like, look, now you really are a
I was
supermodel.
floored. Like me on YouTube, like, I don't know, man, that's, but the things have to be said. It's like, this is still part of my journey. Like doing something like this is so not me. And this one kind of opened me up to that more. Like, and the word has to be said, and you're getting that out and you're getting that out. And it's like, you don't have to be intimidated by me if you see me on the street. Like, let's be cool. Let's talk about it. Maybe my dreadlocks are different than yours. Like, that's cool, but get the word out there, man. Like, I'm all about that. Like, I can be. And
you're also maintaining the history of locks.
Yeah, well, that's kind of been
because
I realized a long time ago, like there's a lot that comes with this, and you should have some kind of knowledge of what it is and represents. And like, to me, like I became what it was, and that was not, like I explained that, like it kind of found me. And maybe it's wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be a white guy that's into these black religions. I don't know, but it came to me, and it was my path. And my path didn't even want me here, because this is like Babylon nonsense. I shouldn't be online now, but like, if I can help other people with dreadlocks, that's cool. If I can help Krista, who's now is my friend, I want to support my friends. Like, she didn't want me to pay for any of this, and I want to pay her. I want to see her do well. I want to see her spread the word of dreadlocks. I want her to, I support that. I applaud that. Like, we're different, but this day and age, like I said, I don't want to support supercuts. Like, she's me. She skates.
Supercuts. If you walked into the supercuts, I think they'd all go hide in the break room. To be honest with you, but no, I think what you're doing, Jonathan, is really still. There's going to be a generation of people that grow up just knowing locks as something you get done at a salon.
Yeah.
And what you're doing by embracing the freeformers, the neglect, like keeping that still alive, and like, hey, there's still a bunch of us out here that are doing this the natural way, so that people understand, because ultimately what you're doing is letting it just happen naturally. It takes the longest to freeform or neglect, to grow your hair with neglecting. And we're all doing the same thing, regardless of what method, or it's just, you're doing it the natural way. And there is absolute pure beauty in that. In the locks themselves, you can feel the energy. Like, I can honestly tell you, for my clients that have freeformed locks, you can feel the energy in their hair. So thank you for like holding on to some history of what dreadlocks actually truly are naturally by themselves. That's important.
Thanks for supporting the freeform.
Because
you said, Krista told me right when it was done, like all these freeform people just started coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, I didn't know so many freeform people followed me online. I was like, whoa, where have you guys been?
I didn't really think that either anymore. I was kind of like, well, everyone's into this crocheting, and and then it's like you came out, and like other people were like, yeah, that's dope, that's cool, like that's what I've been doing. And it's like that even enlightened me, like, wow, I'm not the only one. Like, people like this, other people are doing it. Everyone isn't going to the salon. Like the whole thing of it just becomes, I guess, like a community. I don't know, but like when I saw you saying all that, I was like, wow, man, this guy isn't ripping me apart. Like, he's kind of on the same level as me. So yeah, I can talk with him. That's cool. Like, I'll go on his show. Like, this is like one of the hardest things for me to do in my whole life today. Like, this is, I hide my dreadlocks most of the time. Like, they're in a hat just because I don't like to get into it. Like, it's very personal, religious thing for me. And I don't really like discussing that with Joe Blow on the street. Like, but you and Krista, like, you see where I'm coming from. We can talk about it. You understand it. You have them. you know, and that's cool. And I like that. And like I said, that's part of the journey led me here. Like, you know, to kind of spread my word, to spread Chris's word, to help spread your word. Like I said, no, I didn't think anyone would be really interested in me cutting my hair. Like, I was floored when she sent me that video. I mean, floored. Like, I didn't expect it at all. Like, you know, the fact that I'm here now doing a podcast about my hair is like,
Well,
very
it's
strange.
amazing the times that we live in that we're able to do this. You know, we're in different countries and we're all having a great discussion that's going to open up so much more knowledge and expand people's consciousness regarding the hairstyle.
For sure.
You know,
100%.
Yeah. So I'm floored myself. This is my first time doing a podcast in this style. I mean, this whole podcast, to me in general, I just started it last month. It's been something I've thought about for years. But it's just something that I realize is now my purpose, to connect dreadheads to a larger scale and start attaining the values and the knowledge and the skill sets of other people and what they think about their locks, and just kind of leave it on the internet as a legacy in a sense, you know. So when I'm gone, it's still going to be on the internet that, you know, this is what I've been doing with my life.
Well, and it still spreads the word that, you know, there's a lot to this, and maybe it's not for everyone. Maybe it is. Maybe this, you know, there might be 5,000 more people tomorrow that get dreadlocks. Like, I don't know. Is that good? Is it bad? I don't know. Maybe it's bad. Maybe we'll find out. Like, you know, yeah, these people are. This is wrong.
I actually can say that I've had a huge influx of people wanting to start locks, more than I have ever seen ever in my career, just since everybody's come out of quarantine.
Yeah. Changing.
And it has nothing to do with, like, I mean, our salon has a reputation, like, for sure, you know, and that's always been not number one. Thanks, man. And thanks for calling me punk rock too. Yeah. That's the first time anybody's ever called me punk rock. But I think a lot of that has to do with, I joke around, I'm like, everybody wants the hairstyle for the apocalypse now, like, just in case it actually really happens, because it sounds like it feels like we're heading in that direction, right? But I really think with the pandemic and with everything going on in the world and the world getting shut down, it gave us so much time to think about our priorities and what's important to us, and, you know, how precious life is and how it can kind of just be taken away in a second with, you know, we don't have control as much as we think we do. We really don't. So, you know, I think I'm seeing a lot of this influx. When I tell you influx, I was getting over 30 new consultations in a week.
Wow.
I've never seen anything like that, ever. Every week I had to shut them down because I was like, I can't, like, live. Like, I'm working all week long and then, like, just spending like 8 to 9 hours on my computer on my days off trying to get through all this stuff. So, you know, I am seeing an influx, which is lovely. It's also just a sign that more and more people are being educated properly, and, like, the ideas of what locks are and what they can be is just expanding.
Deprogram.
Yeah. And like, you know, let's keep moving forward.
Turn off the TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Lock your hair instead.
Yeah.
Go look in the mirror at yourself, you know. Did they grow another inch? Let me see, you know, like, that's cool.
Watching my locks grow is a lot more fascinating than a lot of these TV shows they put out there.
Exactly,
oh, hell yeah, dude. Exactly. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure. Like, I'd rather spend an hour or two talking to you guys than watching a movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I would rather connect with people like this in general. I'm not really much of a small talker. I'm actually a pretty big introvert. In general, I can talk about locks all day because I love them, you know. So I think anything that somebody has a passion about and is knowledgeable about and appreciates and respects, you can talk about those things. But to me, that's something that's, like, missing from this world. And I think that's another reason I love my job so much, is the connection. You know, I spent on Saturday, it was my last day of the week. I locked up a guy's hair. We spent 7.5 hours together, you know, and, like, just talking and getting to know each other. And, like, you know, that's something else that this brings in, just like, and I have a different experience with that because I'm working with people
And
with
it's not a
locks.
regular haircut.
But just
once
like
again.
Patrick was saying, like
Seven
it
hours.
connected us, you know, it connected you to us, and you're technologically going to connect us to other people,
For sure.
you know. But to me, the connection is so much more important than like the bullshit that we can buy or entertain ourselves with, or, you know, if anything, that's what I'm seeking in my life. You know, that's what I want, is connection with human beings, that kindred spirits, just people, you know. Even the person that, like, I live in New Jersey, they still pump our gas here. Even the guy at the gas station, like, it's just like, hey man, how you doing? Like, what's going on today? You know, it's just connecting with other people is so important.
I had a job at a gas station when I was in college, and I had to wear a hat. The only way they'd give me the job. It's like, you got to wear a hat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was probably 19 at the time, and I did, and it wasn't that bad. But you know, I was young, kind of like, you know, you got to wear a hat if you want to work here. Whatever.
Yeah,
you
really.
That's the way it goes. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've only the only other job I had was in a grocery store, and it was that didn't allow a certain hairstyle, and it was facial hair out of everything. They're like, oh, you have to shave your mustache and your beard to work here. But other than that, I've always worked at places where I knew that I would be accepted with my locks. And I even had a job, like I shoot weddings for a living, and you know, yeah, it's one of the most formal places that you would need to dress up. But that's when I started my freeforms. Like, I got the job with my interlocks, ended up cutting them, and then I was kind of scared. Well, what will my boss think if I grow freeform dreadlocks? And so I asked him, I was like, I'm gonna grow my dreadlocks back. He's like, I'm like, do you care? He's like, you had dreadlocks when you started here. Why do I care? So I'm just like, all right, I'm going for it, full free.
That's the type of person you want to work for.
And that's good, but that's like what this is also doing. Like, other people might see this without them, be like, hey man, these guys are kind of right. Like, it's really not a big deal. Like, my life, like, I wound up working for the government once again, which is like something I'm so against. But I work for the most diverse workforce in the world. Like, I work with gay people, straight people. I work with guys who are straight up racists, but I work with black people. I worked here in New Brunswick. I used to work with Muslim women who had their faces covered at work. And that was like, you know, this kind of took me in, like, you know, I have dreadlocks. And it's like, yeah, he has dreadlocks, but whatever. That other guy over there has, you know, his whole face is pierced up. And it's like, you know, but we're all working together. We're all in the same union. We're union workers. So it all kind of works out. Like, and that, I mean, that's kind of, I wound up at a job where that was, because I had jobs where it was straight up like, especially in the 90s and 2000s, it was, you know, like, you're a bum. Like, you know, you look like a homeless guy. Like, go cut your hair and I'll think about it. And it was like, well, then this really isn't the job for me. Exactly. Like, you know, and even like, I worked in the art world, and there was still a lot of that, even with that, like, you know, like, you know, like, wasn't it my artwork? And it's like, well, yeah, but you know, you kind of look a little like a bum. Like, you know, you're considered a drug addict.
Telling an artist they look a certain way.
Yeah, which is
takes a special kind of person to do that.
I mean, I had arguments with people that were like, you know, you're white, you shouldn't have this. And I lived a big part of my life where it's like, maybe I shouldn't. And that's part of the reason too. I think, like, I kind of hide it. That's been built into me. Like, I applaud someone like Krista that's going to walk around with dreadlocks and crazy colors. Like, I couldn't really do that. Like, you know, it's not really me. It's a personal thing to me. It's somewhat religious to me. Like, I don't want to get into that with everyone. I don't want to get into the whole talk about Rastafarian and stuff. And it's like, you know, I've been Safarian since before you were born, man. I don't want to get into it with you. It's just, it's the way it is. Like, you know, but, you know, I don't know. A lot of these things now are good, and I try to embrace it, although it's very hard, but, you know, scary.
No, I get it for sure. Definitely scary. Scaring being in, it's scary just kind of not knowing sometimes of what people are gonna really, if they're gonna accept you or not when you take this kind of choice and direction in your life. You know?
Yeah, it's very different.
And I think right now too, and I can say this more so because it seems like we've all grown up where before technology got to be what it is today, all three of us here. And like, the fact that like there's so much online attacking and bullying and things like that, you know, like Patrick experienced it in real life years ago, you know, but what I see mostly in real life today, and this could be because we are changing the stigmas of locks, is just compliments. And you know, like from every walk of life, when I go places, people are, oh, your hair is so awesome, you know, or I compliment somebody else's hair, and then it starts a conversation and we connect again. But a lot of the hate and stuff I see online, and it makes me so sad, you know, just this attacking and just being righteous and telling people that they're wrong. And, you know, and it's just like, man, like, I really do wonder if some of these people would say those things in person.
Yeah, half the time,
you know,
most of the time they won't.
No.
Well, like I have a house in upstate New York, and it's very, you know, it's extremely rural. It's extremely, I can't really say right wing, but you know, it's somewhere where like in the towns and stuff, I don't really fit in. And in 6 years of me owning that house, I've never had one problem there. I'm just accepted, just like, oh yeah, that's the dreadlock guy who lives up on the mountain, like, you know. But I have more problems here, where like you would think in New Jersey, right next to New York City, it would be more accepted. Like, you know, it's very strange, that is, but like up there, it's a
very diverse area.
Yeah, it's like up there, you know, it's a lot of right-wing Republican people, but they kind of accept me for who I am. It's just like, you know, it's just that guy, that's his thing. Like, but here, like the Karens and the, you know, these things that are kind of coming new, like that, those are the people that always kind of give me a problem. Like I've walked into places doing my job and people are like, wow, they let you do that job looking like that? And it's like, you know, I don't even, it's just like, you know, and it's like now at this point, I don't want to get into it. And it's like, yeah, I guess so. Like, you know, but yeah, it's like, it's very strange because somewhere you would think that it would be like every person coming after you. It's the total opposite. Total. Everyone leaves me alone. I mean, they don't leave me alone, but they get people will ask me about it. Oh, like your hair is cool. And it'll be some guy in a pickup truck with like the American flag, you know, where I would even be like, well, I can't go near these people. Like, or I'll be in a restaurant and like, you know, they'll come up to me and be like, oh yeah, you know, we like your hair. And oh yeah, you're into, you know, living off the land up there and stuff. That's cool. Like, you know, I got a bunch of firewood and that's cool. And I'm kind of taken back by that. Like I've been restaurants up there and there's like full on country dudes who are like nodding their head at me. And I'm kind of like, I don't know, they want to kick my ass. Like, you know, and it's like, nah, like they're, you know, and then they'll come up to and talk to me and be like, yeah, man, I like your car. I like, you know, it's so different. But like here, yeah, it's kind of the more privileged, give you a little more like, I don't know. It's what you would think is the total opposite. It's just, you know, I don't know. It's very strange.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon for sure. For sure. Well, I gotta end the stream here. I'm getting kind of worried that my computer's gonna crash and I'm gonna lose it. But I do definitely want to thank you guys, and I do look forward to connecting with you all again in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't be a stranger, Jonathan. It was great to talk to you today. Thank you so much. It's a great opportunity.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you and your time and everything that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt. And I will definitely send you guys the link when everything's uploaded and ready to go.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was a great time chopping it up. So until next time,
go vegan.
One love.
Vegan.
See you guys around. Ciao.
Dreadication.